And we're gonna call this meeting to order. Thank you all for attending tonight's Planning Commission meeting of October the 10th. First item on the agenda, we're gonna start with a Pledge of Allegiance, and it's gonna be led by Commissioner Roberts.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of you for coming tonight. This is probably one of the first meetings that we've actually had, more than 2 members in the audience. So thanks for being here. First action item on our agenda tonight is a consent. Oh, no, just kidding. I'm jumping ahead. Public comment. We are going to open the podium for public comments, and this can be about anything you like to talk about. You get 3 minutes of time. Please state your name and where you live. I will say, because we do have later on in the agenda a public hearing that is specific to the general plan projected land use map amendment, that if your public comments are centered around that topic, that you hold your comments until we get to that agenda item. So at this point in time, the time is now yours for who'd ever like to make public comment.
Paul Sturm, South Weaver City. My public comments tonight have to do with the comments that I made back on 11th of July. And the comments pointed out that questions and concerns. And I pointed out discrepancies. And these discrepancies are the same type that were in the initial packet. And that has to do with the zone changes. The zone change application shown on the old 14 of 32 from Shane Turner shows a requested zone change from R1 to HC. The current zoning is actually A, not R1. Plus, there is no HC zone in South Weaver City. Okay, and I have another comment. In all of my years attending both planning and city council meetings, I have never seen so many items being pushed through in one meeting regarding a single project with the many associated interdependencies and 3 simultaneous chart changes being requested of the city. Thank you.
My name is Dave Randall. I live at 79 Harper Way. Two of you might recall back at a commission meeting, July 13, 2023, when discussion about a potential RV spot was discussed. And one of the questions that came out of it was, what if one of these areas happened to border a residential neighborhood? And the city manager responded, lots of trees. Then he went in and talked about the buffer yard landscaping code, which you know, Title 10, Chapter 15, Section 10, 15, 14, and how that would help to mitigate anything there. Now, so this general RV packet that's gone out, the staff report in the application has recommended that we waive a majority of these codes that the planning commissioner was talking about, or the city manager. So I want to go through a couple of those. The code calls for an 8-foot wall. General RV wants a 6-foot wall. I want an 8-foot wall. I want to follow code. Staff report recommends that a 6-foot wall be used because they're using an example of 2 CR lots and have a wall between those. It doesn't apply to this situation. We're a residential area. The second is the code states 1 tree with mature height of at least 25 feet to be planted every 20 feet. General RV lists no trees anywhere on their plans. I would like lots of trees. And I get that, right? But at least I want 1 tree with a mature height of at least 25 feet to be placed every 20 feet. The staff report memorandum doesn't address that there's no trees listed, except for where it talks about how there's already a natural barrier on a piece of land that isn't owned by General RV. It's owned by the Riverdale Bench Canal, and they could pull that out any day. If their water isn't flowing like it needs to be, they can come and pull those trees out. The intent of section 10, 15, 14, it says, is to increase the compatibility of adjacent land uses and foster compatibility among different land uses by minimizing the harmful effects. I get it, right? The RVs are coming. But I don't know if you realize this in looking through it with the topo of that site plans, there's some areas that the finished surface will be 5.5 feet higher than what it is currently. Now you take that and you put a 20-foot light pole on top of it, we've got a problem. The zone CR allows and gives General RV the right to have, if they wanted their next mega memorial tent day sale right in the middle of our neighborhood. We don't know how the traffic coming in or traffic coming out is going to be. Is it going to be 5 RVs a day? Is it going to be 15? Is it going to be 70? We don't know. Any assumption is just that assumption. We need to follow the code. So there's a number of challenges. This is at the top of my list. I wish I had more time, but we can mitigate some of these not by waiving the code, but by following the code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trevor Skank, 6455 Raymond Drive. I want to start off by just telling you a little story. So my house, I am the only one that shares the soccer field with the soccer complex. Okay. When they came in to a planning commission just like you, and I know none of you who are on that planning commission, and I do appreciate your time you take out of your lives to come and volunteer and take care of something like this. But this story just wants to reiterate how important you are in the community and listening to the residents. So when the soccer complex, when they first designed it to go in, they were very specific. There weren't going to be any games played there. It was a practice facility only. They had a lot of criteria. There's a buffer zone that's supposed to be between my house and the playing field. They weren't going to have traffic. They were not going to use 6650 at all. They were very adamant about that. They'd promised me not one soccer ball would come over the fence. Okay. And now I look back and it was, I won't use any foul language, but you know what? We got I want to use a bad language. Anyways, they took very much advantage of us. Okay. I have hundreds of balls every summer come over the fence. I cannot go into my house on a Saturday or Sunday and not, with the doors shut, and not hear the field adjacent to me on stuff that was never supposed to happen. Now, I've extended an invitation to a couple of the city councilmen just here within the last 2 or 3 weeks to come down and just see what exactly goes on. But you know what? Nobody comes down because they don't want to put their fingers on it. They don't want to deal with it because it's only one person that is affected. Now, I know this is another issue for another time, but when residents have valid questions and concerns, I just want you to see how important it is. What you're actually doing right here can affect a community. Down there, they've kind of treated us like West Valley City. Okay, we got the soccer complex, we got the city shops, now we get the RV center. Okay, all off of recreational concern. It was zoned recreational commercial. Okay, and now all of a sudden the city is able to do what they want with it. Very easy for them to get it through. But there's a lot of us down there who aren't very happy with what the city has done. And I realize hard decisions have to be made, but please just value that you do make a big difference in what your perspective. We care about it, and we want you to listen to the residents and do what you feel best is for the community. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. So Sarah Davis, 95 Harper Way. I also am representing multiple houses along that south side of the road. Multiple people couldn't be here today, so I am representing multiple households. Including, we were here, was it 4 months ago, when we also said we're interested in purchasing that land. That did not go through. We tried to go through all of those steps to make sure that that land was protected, it wasn't built on. And now with the trees, there could be no trees. The lights could be above the wall, everything. We're not happy. And I just wanted to be here to say that the trees need to be there. The wall needs to be there, and we don't like the lights. Okay, I know. So that is it. Thank you. Thank you.
I know none of you live on Harper Way. I'm 151 Harper Way. I'm Penelope Shoup. And I am very much concerned that the city engineer has recommended the buffer yard landscaping be waived regarding an 8-foot wall and trees. It seems to me that that's a very small thing for us to ask for. And we shouldn't have it denied because it doesn't please somebody else. We're the ones that live there. We're the ones that have to deal with the continuous dirt and all that's been going on just from the outset of this. And I just hope that you consider where you live as opposed to where we live. And we would like it kept to the least problem that we could have. And it doesn't sound to me like that the city engineer has suggested that that landscaping be waived. I don't see the value in that to us as residents of that area at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do a last call for anyone else for just general public comment.
Are you arguing?
Do
Sarah
you need a minute?
Randall, Sarah Randall, South Weaver, 79 Harper Way. When we were looking to buy a home in South Weaver a little over 12 years ago, everyone we knew that already lived here made a big deal about how when you move in, you never move out. I've wondered since 2016 if city officials have recognized that this sentiment of this beloved community is fading. Although I never believed anyone when they said that there would never be a house or anything to the west of me, I did always assume it would be a home, not the potential of a 12 to 14-foot wall, because that would be including the retaining wall that will have to be put in for the fill that they brought in to cover the canal that's been diverted. So on top of that, you add an RV, which will add another 1 to 6 feet, blocking the view that I used to have of deer, mink, hawks, beavers, coyotes, and even the fun of watching the jets and the airplanes take off and land. Again, this funny to me that it's a company that looks to promote fun and outdoors, and they're taking that away from the neighbors around them. I would ask that you please acknowledge those who have made homes in South Weber by allowing us to keep the beauty that drew us here and the property values that we've strived to uphold. Keep the roads safe, as Kingston has an access to it. And even though it's been said that it will only be used when South Weber Drive is unavailable hasn't been really defined. So what does that mean? Just because another truck is coming out, they're going to divert down to Kingston. So I would recommend that it be used for emergency vehicles only, and that written down so that we can come if something happens. Also with the lighting, 21 parking lot lights shining up above your house when you've had a backyard that's only been moonlit. You can go out with your family and friends and enjoy the evenings, and now it's going to be completely bright. So I'd like to see the 8-foot walls and new 25-foot trees, not the stuff that is already there and could be taken out any day. And then I'd also like to see the pavement come in. I know that there's those around us that have some lung issues, and those have even been escalated since just the construction has started around us, with all of the dirt that's been flying in the air. And if it's not paved, we're going to have to deal with that, which in other meetings has said at least 10 times a day as they pull RVs in and out. And who knows, even a commissioner said in a previous meeting when he worked for an RV company, when RV shows were happening, that would increase significantly. And we know that those happen 4 or 5 times a year. So I asked before the vote be taken that it clearly be stated that the piece to the northwest, which is shown as phase 2 and says that it will be future, they're still asking for it to be voted on and approved by, from what I could see and all of the stuff that I read, that they won't have to come back after it's approved tonight to have it clearly stated that it needs to be rediscussed, and that the neighboring residents, who will also be Nielsen Homes, have the opportunity to agree on what will happen between that phase 2 parcel, which will sit between 2 residential zonings. I'd also like to make the comment that it keeps getting said that bringing more business into the city is going to lower my taxes. Since 2016, when I feel that the city has really started on this path, I've yet to see a decrease in my taxes from anything other than the valuation of my property, which was inflated from a pandemic. And I find that my utility bill is going up at least $3 every few months. So I ask that you take a minute and ask yourself, did you move here to be in the city or to get a little bit away from the city? And is the continual approval of business coming into the city benefiting the residents? Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Whaley, 98 East Harper Way. We're all from Harper Way. Just want to clarify two things that Sarah talked about. The first was the comment about the road-based pavement. It's stated that it's road-based pavement, which is not asphalt. Okay, if you don't have a plan to repair that or retreat that on an ongoing basis, 2 years, then it's going to be dirt and dust. And then South Weaver City will have to fix it, which is the tax dollars that we're trying to reduce. Just want to clarify that. Second clarifying issue is about Kingston and the access off of Kingston. There is no sidewalk between 475 and one house before Kingston. And that's a school bus drop. So that means we're going to have children walking down Kingston with no sidewalk. So if we allow the Kingston entrance to be used by RVs, okay, we've got a hazard for the children. Okay. The other piece of that is if you've ever driven from 475 through the development around the, I'll call it the curve that can't be, you can't keep your car in the line on the curve, much less an RV. Okay, and then to get that to come into Raymond Drive and then make that left on to Kingston, you've got a disaster. And if they take South Weaver Drive and try to come around that corner on 475 and then make a left, you got a disaster. Okay, so we really need there to be something strict that says that Kingston exit or entrance is only for emergencies. And don't make it wishy-washy like if there's a problem with South Weaver. It's only for emergencies. I think that's required. And then I think you need to require an ongoing maintenance plan for the road base that they be putting in. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Auger, 6437 South Raymond Drive. So my house is on Raymond Drive in Kingston. And so my driveway goes into Kingston. And so Mike just made the point of the kids walking without the sidewalk. I think that is such a safety issue. I understand that for me, I can definitely be careful backing out, but those kids and just it would be really, really tough. And then the other point was just really good. 6650 where that turns is just too tight. So we'd have to really expand that to have a sidewalk and more space, which then the Halverson property and the Kendall property would have to be adjusted. But that would have to happen at a minimum, just so we could all have safety first. And then just, you know, the soccer complex, the biggest problem is the ambiguity or the not clear enough on what we were saying. And so as a community, we just got to be super clear that this is not negotiable. This is exactly what we want, because, you know, I can barely be in my backyard with the soccer complex, and I don't share the boundary, but it is so loud. It has definitely changed the dynamic of my home. And as we try to fight and try to, you know, there was not enough detailed policy on what needed to happen. So, but I love the last 2 points. Those are my 2 points, was the 6650 and the sidewalk. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jordan Love, 429 East Old Maple. I'm commenting about the Cooper Landing property across the street from my house. Biggest issue that I have with the new plan, when they came in with the townhomes, looked like it might be an okay idea, but there's a new entrance that has been added in there that comes off of Old Maple Road. Not safe. There's already enough traffic. That 25 miles an hour doesn't happen because of the soccer complex. People are going 40, sometimes 50. I've almost thrown rocks at people. I'm not going to admit that, but
We won't tell.
I will occasionally throw a 2x4 out just to slow people down. And if we have a commercial property across from us with an entrance on Old Maple Drive with a school bus stop right there next door, not safe, not okay. If it's going to be commercial, there needs to only be one entrance off of 475. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, final, last call. All right, then I'm gonna go ahead and ask for a motion to close public comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Never mind. Just kidding. I'm closing public comment. False alarm. So, my head is already in so many places. I'm gonna try to bring it back where it needs to be. So first action item, this is the consent agenda for September 12th, 2024 meeting minutes. I'm gonna ask the commission if there was anything that was noted, if there's an approval or any changes that need to be made. Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion. That one I need a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, September 12th, 2024 minutes as presented.
And I will second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, did you get that, Michelle? Okay. Next item, this is going to be the public hearing for the general plan projected land use map amendment. And actually, I think before we have the public hearing, is it appropriate, Lance, to have you get up and kind of discuss what the amendment being requested is and give us as much background as you can, and then we'll open it up to the public for comment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is a request for, and really you kind of have three items going on this same 2.2 acres. I think most people understand where it's at corner 475 Old Maple, just back from the filling station there. This 2 acres is proposed. The first item that needs to happen is a general plan amendment. Right now it is, in the general plan, it is RN residential moderate. It's the long-term projected land use map item on there. The request is to change it from that residential moderate to commercial highway. And that would be the first item is, do we want to do that? The general plan itself calls out different criteria of what we should look at when we're making changes to the general plan. We have some goals and policies that talk about that. Specifically, you asked, the general plan talks about multifamily being spread out. It talks about appropriate commercial development is encouraged. An arterial roadway and interstate seem to fit that criteria. My recommendation. The general plan states that the local commercial from on I-84 and Old Fort Interchange is a place for that to be, although it's not there now. And then care given to any commercial interchange buffer. So close to that, we need to make sure that any commercial development happens is a buffer to the residential area that might be adjacent to it. So looking at those criteria, staff recommended approval of the general plan amendment. The second item is a development agreement, which you have a revised copy today that goes a little more in depth. Our application process initially is just to get an exhibit of the items they want to discuss. And so that was what was originally submitted. It's now they've given us a longer form that's more a development agreement rather than just statement of criteria that they want to look at. Those elements are 3 buildings, the limits on the size, the uses would be commercial below, they're called flex units, so commercial or small industrial type uses could be there, small shops. And then they have the option to have in the development agreement, have a dwelling unit on the second floor that would be occupied either by the owner or an employee. So as everybody's well aware of in the state of Utah, that we have a lot of moderate income housing requirements. This would be a way to get a few more of those types of things. So that was the concept that was put forward. They've got the layout in the development agreement in their concept plan. It does have the access road off of Old Maple Drive road, and that is their request. And so we can look at those criteria and see how we feel about that, and you guys will make the recommendation to the council. And then the third item on this property is a rezone. So with the general plan amendment, with the development agreement, then the third item would be a rezone from the current zoning of agricultural to commercial highway. So allowing for that use to happen. And that's just, if you do the general plan amendment, then and the development agreement, maybe you feel comfortable with that, maybe you don't. And that's the purpose of tonight's meeting, is to gather that input. It's a public hearing, so We've heard some comments already, but the public hearing part of this is to vet it out more.
Okay,
Obviously, there's a lot of information to process.
and thank you.
And you guys can make a recommendation on all three of those items, are technically separate items. We put them all together because it's a very similar discussion.
Okay.
Really talking about the long-term use of these 2 acres. And it's going the right way. You may remember that they had a previous application just to go to residential.
Mhm.
And that was tabled at the city council.
Is that continued back to this?
So it was continued, it was really tabled and they reapplied, modifying that application to this commercial highway instead of going just residential.
Okay,
They changed per the council discussion to get more of a commercial and residential aspect.
Okay.
So that's what happened there.
thank you for that.
Sure.
I do also want to point out before I open up the public hearing is that there was an amendment that was added that actually contains the more detailed version of that development agreement that was not included in the original packet. So just be aware that there is information that was not originally available that is out there now. It went from a 2-page document to a 16-page document. So I'm just letting you be aware. I am going to open up the podium again for public hearing, and this is specific to the Cooper's Landing for the general plan projected land use map amendment, which is asking for a rezone of the projected land use to go from current agricultural to commercial highway. So I've given that detail out there. So the podium is now yours. The same rules still is yours. Same rules still apply. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name, give your address. We appreciate it. And the time is now yours.
I just have a question for clarification.
Go ahead.
Can you restate again who can occupy the residential parts of that building?
It would be the owner of there's 15 different units.
Right.
And so the owner of that unit or an employee. So if they had, I don't know.
So-
It's very flexible in what kind of uses could go there.
An employee of anybody that occupies any of those?
No, it'd be that unit. It'd have to be my
So it's a
interpretation,
one-to-one.
and actually that might be a good point of clarification, make sure we get that right. But my interpretation and assumption is it's, hey, you're in this this unit, you're in unit 12,
And
you work in unit 12, you can live in the unit above.
yeah, you probably need to make that
Yeah,
clear.
that's good.
And what is an owner? Is an owner the person that owns the property or the person that leases the property?
Great question.
I would interpret that as either. If you have a long-term lease on a property, you're leasing that industrial like space, I would interpret that.
But then you have to have months on the lease to determine long-term from short-term, correct?
Well, the short-term would not be long-term. It's not short-term. It had to be longer than 30 days lease.
And I will say, just a reminder, no comments from the audience because it's really hard for the mics to pick up. So please step up to the podium if you wouldn't mind. Okay, time is still yours. Ooh. Taking the chair with you.
Get excited. Well, I'm glad I spoke in the wrong section because now I get.
You're good. You're good.
I missed the opening. So Jordan Love, 429 East Old Maple. So this is directly across the street from my house. And I didn't quite have prepared what I wanted to say, and I still don't, but my question, Mr. Evans, and thank you for clarifying some of that stuff. My question to you, because I heard you say on my recommendation, can I ask you a question? If you lived across the street from this, would you like it? Would you recommend this according to those parameters of being commercial right there, and it was across the street from your house? Would you recommend it?
Yeah.
You would,
I would.
to have streetlights in your bedroom window,
Well,
or the lights and those having those right there? I'm surprised you'd say that, and I don't believe you. My big thing is
sorry.
we had they came at us with, and I know it wasn't you guys because you approved it, city council knocked it down. So this is more for city council to hear when if they ever watch these and care what we say. They came with residential units. It was a great plan. You guys approved it. City council knocked it down. Why? I would love to hear from city council to know why was residential knocked down. It is agricultural right now. Residential, that's what our neighborhood, that's what our community is. That's why we moved to South Weaver.
Why do we want to add in 15 commercial spaces right at the beginning where there are hundreds of kids right there in all those townhomes? Not great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Sturm, South Weaver City. The first part of this is a preamble. Please note that updated material was released to the public at 3:47 today, 2 hours and 15 minutes prior to the Planning Commission meeting. This does not provide sufficient time to review the new 16-page document for the Turner project and compare it with previous information. There is one in particular in the new document, and it's item 3 on page 4. Development of the project shall be incorporated in accordance with city ordinance in effect as of the effective date. This agreement and its attachment in the event of a conflict between the city's ordinance and agreement, the more specific provisions of the agreement and its attachments shall control. What this means is if the developer decides to come in and there's a conflict, he decides to do it, he can override city rules. And the other final thing is Utah Code 52-4-202 requires a 24-hour notice on this type of activity. Now back to the public hearing itself. The action items is for the general plan, projected land use map attachment. Now, with regard, and what happens is there's 3 subsets added to what the initial stated goal was. My public hearing comments regarding the general plan amendment. A general plan amendment is a very serious action that should not be taken lightly. The general plan was developed and voted upon by all of the citizens of South Weaver City after months of meetings and several votes. I do not know if it is appropriate to change the general plan just for one development who has a piece of property that does not fit existing city code. It should also be noted that this is the second time this developer has tried to get city approval for this project, and that request was soundly rejected by the South Weaver City City Council on the 23rd of July of 24. Now, the next one is regarding the proposed development agreement. I have never seen, even in just preliminary document, and this is the original one that was given to the public, such a poorly stated, incomplete development agreement. It appears to be just a shopping list. There are numerous discrepancies in what is being proposed. A, Cooper's Landing flex space. There is no flex space zone in South Weaver City. It has been considered by the South Weaver City Code Committee and rejected at this time. In paragraph 1, proposing an ADU is in violation of the city code regarding ADUs. An ADU is not permitted in a commercial zone as being proposed, only residential zones. C, paragraph 2. Development will have 4 individual structures. Understand now, as of 2.25 hours ago, it's down to 3. And it only shows 32 parking spaces. This is in violation of city code for commercial. Paragraph 4, height limit of 35 feet. This height would create huge walls on both sides of the development. Along 475, it would be similar to the building walls along 12th West in Ogden, north of 12th Street in BDO. Also, the residents of Freedom Landing, especially along Aspen Lane, could have a 35-foot tall building 10 feet off of the property line. And this is to the Planning Commission in general. How would you like a 35-foot wall in your backyard completely blocking your view? Regarding the rezone request, I discussed this in my initial public comment. And the current zone is A for agriculture, not R1 for residential. And the HC zone requested does not exist in South Weaver City. Bottom line, this request will require multiple South Weaver City actions to implement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Grant, 2622 Deer Run Drive. Thanks, Commissioner Losi, for bringing to attention that the packet was amended 2.5 hours ago. We have several issues going on, small, big, general plan, all those issues going on. A lot of people are already here, but a lot of people may not be here. Have we given enough time? Have we informed them? With such a sensitive issue, people are going to be upset and they will say they didn't get a chance. Remember, public gets only 2 times to comment. One is during during planning commission meeting, and the other one is city council. It almost seems like we're pushing this through too much, too fast, too many issues, too quickly, and so many more items have been added. Regular people who are here have not had a chance to review. Other people are going to complain. I mean, I'm on the side of the city and planning commission. Why open yourself to something that people are going to be angry about? And technically speaking, we're illegal. I know Jamie is not here, but we should look into legality and not discuss this until next meeting. Thank you.
Randall, Harper Way, 79. I drive through this area every day, right? And it's a cluster. I don't know what the solution is. In fact, I don't think there is a solution right there with where that property lies. Maybe it's open green space is the answer there. But the kids make me nervous. They make me nervous when I'm driving, let alone if we've got RVs going through there, and we're going to add some more businesses. Nobody's even mentioned that all the mailboxes are directly across from that. So you've got all the people who are stopping right there to get their mail. And we're already weaving around that process. It just seems like, right, this changing of the amending the plan, and that's the first step. And maybe we need to just pump the brakes and make sure that we've got this right, and that we're not trying to fix mistakes going on.
Okay, last call. Anyone else? Anyone? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on agenda item number 4. And we're going to move right along into number 5, where we're going to talk about the general plan projected land use map amendment. I know, Lance, you've given kind of an overview. Do I need a motion? Oh, sorry. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing for agenda item number 4?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
And a second?
I second that.
And a roll call vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Good. It's turning time to you. Sorry.
I'd like, I mean, if you don't mind, I'd like to respond to a few of these things.
I think that would be great, because I think the appropriate time for our discussion is maybe even after agenda item number 6. That's the hard part with doing multiple things under one element. I don't want to miss the opportunity for the commission to have their discussion.
Well, okay, so on that, I would say you can take them one at a time.
Okay,
I think if I respond to a lot of these, they're applicable to all 3.
okay.
But then your discussion and motions just need to be independent.
Independent of everything. Okay,
But I think you can have an overall discussion on all 3 items at the same time.
okay. Does the commission agree with that, to have an overall discussion of agenda items 4 through 6?
And do they, if we deny one, do they need all 3 to be approved or no? Like if we deny the motion for,
And
There's no motions
I'm
right
sorry,
now.
yeah.
it would be very difficult to recommend approval of a development agreement and a rezone if you didn't approve the general plan.
Okay, just making sure.
If
yeah.
number 1 fails,
You
nothing
would
else
make a
moves forward.
recommendation on all 3.
Okay, yep.
regardless.
Okay.
But it does seem logical that you would, they build on each other.
Correct, okay.
Actually,
And-
even
and maybe
including
you're
number
okay
7.
with one or two and not okay with the other, or, this could break down many different ways.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to, all three of us go down, recommendations.
Let's go ahead and discuss general or number 5 through 7 as a whole. Please respond to obviously comments and questions brought forth.
So number one is there's been an accusation that this was illegally posted. The state code requirement, and this is just critical, is 24 hours notice of an agenda item. So this item was agended and it was noticed well in advance of 24 hours. There's no state requirement that the packet be complete and that the packet doesn't even have to go out. That information doesn't have to be available. It is available, try and get it ahead of time. I mean, obviously, that's the best way to make a decision is give people time. But this is a dynamic process that there's a lot of changes that are occurring. And that we get new information continually. The application did meet the development agreement application. It's the easiest one to pick on. All three were complete applications. They met our code requirements for what we requested. For a general plan amendment, for a development agreement, and for a reason. So they met those application requirements, and we're required to continue to push them through if they've met those requirements. They have legal rights to come to the hearing. What happens at the hearing and the information provided, it's a different story, but they do get to come to the meeting. 24 hours is the notice requirement for it. So there's no illegal activity there, and I think that's just important.
Okay.
I think there are items that could be clarified in the development agreement that will help make it more clear. And I think I would take your direction back and say actual property owner or leaser that they can live in the units, that type of thing. So open to suggestions there.
Do we have the developer here or a representative?
Representative, yes.
Okay. Would we like to give him a moment to come up and talk about the
Absolutely.
intentions and what you know, if that's okay? Just because we're on that point, and I think it's important to have his kind of feedback.
Yeah, so my name is Chris Cave. I'm from Reven Associates and I live in Pleasant View. So these are not a for lease product, they are for sale. Shane doesn't want to be a landlord. So each unit will be sold.
Sorry, could you repeat your last name?
Cave.
Cave.
Yeah.
C-A-V-E?
Yeah, like a whole amount.
That is what he said.
Remember.
Come on.
It's been a minute. It was July.
Yeah.
Okay, so not for lease.
Yeah, they're not,
They will be owned.
he does not want to be a landlord. He wants to sell each individual pad.
So each individual
Each building,
unit
Yeah, there'll be a condo. They'll
will
own
be,
it.
okay,
Yes.
with an option for business.
Yeah, and they're not a
Included.
storefront. They are like a heating and air conditioning.
Mhm.
They have a small office in the front and they have a warehouse in the back. And there's not a counter you go into, you don't walk into them. There's several examples of those right across the street from our office. There's a tire store, there's like custom rims, but there's not a storefront.
I think if there's any other questions that were asked that were appropriate for you to respond to at this time.
Just catching up.
Yeah. We'll give Lance a minute.
I was just gonna point out that any of these items that you want to nail down, you certainly can just put in the development agreement.
Mhm.
It was pointed out that there is no flex zone
Mhm.
in the code, which is absolutely true. And that is why they're proposing a development agreement.
Hence
Because the development agreement is basically saying there's nothing in the code that fits exactly what we want to do. So we're going to propose to you what we want to do, and then you can decide whether or not you're okay with it.
And this submittal is based on the meeting with the mayor and the city council. They did not want the residential. That's why we're here.
No, I watched that meeting, so
Okay.
I followed the discussion. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and have you sit down.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you, guys.
And if I need you, I'll call you back up. I am. Thank you. Okay.
Couple of the comments that were made, I just want to address that, there was stated that the developer using the development agreement can override city code. That is not my interpretation of that development agreement.
Okay.
The development agreement is simply stating, if it's not clarified in code and it is in the development agreement would apply. And that's the basic rule there. The more restrictive is going to apply, the
Right.
more specific documents going to apply.
More specificity.
So they don't get to write their own rules and ignore city code after that. It would be the elements in there. The easy example would be, the dwelling unit above. That's in the development agreement, it's not addressed in city code, they can do it. It was also stated that the ADU was not permitted in the commercial zone. In fact, in the commercial zone and the industrial zones, ADUs are allowed for employees and owners. That's where they got that element from. So that is part of the code. And again, to Brandon's point, the development agreement allows us to be flexible. It doesn't have to follow the zoning code. We're writing a unique development agreement for this 2 acres. And then similarly, the parking standards, I think that they do actually have more parking because each of the units would have potentially an internal parking space. So they've got the internal one and then the outside. So I hope there wouldn't be a parking problem. We would need to double check.
So these units have an internal parking space? No, not at
They all
all.
have garage.
They have a garage
doors.
here that they access like their warehouse behind, and then this is their entryway, their man.
Can we, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
And maybe circulate one throughout the audience, please.
The sexy garage.
Like no rendering. Okay.
Have you got? I'll
Yeah, we'll take whatever you got.
I was trying to visualize some of it.
It's the same building that he's proposing, it's just different. So,
Michael.
This is the same.
Just
That's yeah, they're the same.
And if I just saw this picture, I would assume these are mainly for like stores, not necessarily parking. I mean, it's obviously it's whatever they want, but like you mentioned HVAC, I would fill that with HVACs then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the ones across from us, they'll put like their trucks in.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, it's not.
He needs to speak
I'm
into the
sorry.
mic.
Yep,
so it's on
yep.
record again.
And now that we've kind of dispersed, why don't you go ahead and just show or share what you showed in terms of the renderings?
Okay, so each one of them has like an industrial, like a roll-up door, like a garage door, and then a man door on the side. The whole interior, except for the office, is open. So you could park in there if you elected to, or you store your equipment, your supplies for your business in there. The other thing kind of that I would like to address is these will have like building front light packs. There's not a parking lot per se with poles. So there won't be a flood of light.
So are lights mostly going to be contained within the buildings or
Yeah,
on
they'd
the
be
buildings?
front of the, yeah, like
Just
a-
the front of the
yeah,
buildings?
Like a garage light or they're just kind of have
A
the front
canned light?
lighting. Another thing that the mayor and the city council wanted was, like when you're looking at it from 475, it wouldn't be a blank wall. It has to have windows above the fence. So it just isn't a blank wall.
And is this on the front of the building and the rear of the building?
Yeah.
What about the sides of the building or buildings?
I mean, you can require that we can put that in, yeah.
Yeah. Looks like there's some buildings and dimensions, knockouts.
Could you talk about the wall it was kind of implied that there'd be a 35-foot tall wall.
Well, the back of the building could potentially be 35 feet tall. That's the limit.
And how far would that be from the property line?
it would be 10 feet from the fence in the back, but it wouldn't be like a wall because the requirement is that you make it not be ugly. Like they don't like the barracks looks of the townhomes.
Yeah.
So they wanted it broken up and they wanted windows in it. So it wouldn't be like a concrete wall.
Which we talked about.
Yeah.
So on that property line, between those condos or townhomes, excuse me, just to the west of the property, what is envisioned for that property line?
Well, there's an existing fence there.
Okay.
And then the trail's on the west side of that fence.
And so.
And then we would have,
No additional barrier would exist besides the fence that's there?
correct,
No landscaping, no trees, no nothing.
you can require that.
Okay.
And then one question, I'm looking at his screen on the map, but power lines they go over the larger building on the east side?
Yeah, I don't think those are power lines. That looks like an easement.
No,
There
they
are
are.
power lines.
No,
There's
they are
power
power
lines
Is
there.
that- okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Chris, this will help.
Oh.
What's in orange and yellow are power
Perfect.
lines.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
there is a pole. There is a
Oh,
pole
right there.
north of unit one,
that's-
but they are, I mean, the wire height is there that they can put the building underneath it, so.
35 feet would fit
There,
underneath.
yeah, there's. well,
Even
I'm
that
not- I-
lower.
Honestly, I can't tell you that because I don't really know if they are, but my understanding from Shane is they are tall enough. He's already talked to Rocky Mountain Power and they can go underneath.
We would still just get that in writing from Rocky Mountain Power.
Right.
So.
Sorry.
Okay, Lance, do you have anything else? You wanted to bring up, because otherwise I'm gonna open it up for, okay,
You want me to address traffic?
yes, but I'm gonna have Chris sit down, so he's not standing
Okay,
there.
one thing I
unnecessarily.
just want to add is we did put that second access to Old Maple Farm or Old Maple Road because the council didn't want all of the property out on 475, all the traffic out on 475.
Okay.
That's why it's there.
Okay,
We don't need it. So if you guys don't want it, we can take it out.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, Brandon, go ahead.
A traffic study has not been performed on this yet. So that's certainly something that could still be required.
One was done when it was presented as a townhome community, correct, and impact. It was given just to city council, not to planning commission previously.
I was not aware of
I
that.
think there
but-
was one.
It was not a traffic study.
It was
a
impact.
letter,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it was based on this.
Okay, I haven't seen that. That's okay.
It's
We
okay.
we would still vet that.
Mhm.
Um,
I would like to know the true impact, because I know even with what was presented in city council there was questions as to the validity of the actual impact, given general RV, the bus stop, and local traffic that's currently in that area. So,
Well, as is frequently the case with traffic, unfortunately, traffic is there's the hard numbers and then there's what feels okay and what doesn't feel okay. And that feels different to everybody. So you'll get a study and you may look at it, you may think it looks fine, but somebody else will see it and they do not think that's okay. It's been my experience through my career that frequently traffic studies are not agreed with. Even when they come from, registered professional engineers who do the studies. But we would still do one to try to get our arms around what they feel like the impact is and review accordingly. Changing the use from what it is to anything is going to cause the traffic to go up. Residential versus what these potentially would be. I believe that you would find the residential would have a higher traffic impact. There's a lot more that would be coming and going. These don't have, they're not a destination. You're not going there to purchase something. So likely the traffic count would be lower. But that'd be verified by the report. The access location, That's a challenging one here. This property is not ideally located. You really only have two options for an access. It is my opinion that the access out onto Old Maple Road would be safer than the one out on 475. And the reason for that is because of the distance between conflict points. If you put it out onto 475, the distance between Old Maple Road's intersection and General RV's driveway across the way, and then this, you've got a lot of conflict points right there together
On 475?
on 475. So that is my opinion. I think neither one is ideal, but of the two, I think it would be worse to put them out on 475.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because you might know this. From that corner point, do we have 40 feet extending to either the 475 access point or the Old Maple proposed access point? Do you know the distance?
40 feet between those two?
Yes.
I don't know exactly the distance.
And my only reason for bringing that up is in our code, and it's 10.8.2 paragraph C5. In a commercial zone, no driveway shall be closer to an intersection of two streets than 40 feet measured from the center point of the property line.
I think you're probably.
Am I
I don't know.
misinterpreting that
I'm not
wrong?
gonna- I don't dare say that I know what that distance is, because I would need to measure that, but I think just knowing that the traffic both now and in the future is likely to be heavier on 475. Those who are visiting this property in the future are going to be much safer themselves. Again, this is my opinion. Much safer themselves to access the property off of Old Maple Road versus 475. And I also think they will cause a detrimental impact to everyone else on 475 when they're trying to come out.
Agreed.
So I know that neither one is ideal, but the property has an owner and they need an access, and so it's got to be one of the two.
Okay.
I have some comments.
Yeah, I think let's just go ahead and start
That's how we're gonna start
commission
in
discussion.
commission
Yep. And if you'd like to start, Commissioner McFadden, the floor is
Okay.
yours.
All right. Well, I just want to make it known that like my personal preference would be for this whole land to be green space. I think that would be totally awesome. I think that the feasibility of doing that, going through that, we could totally, look at what the, process of that could be. But turning that into a green space, on somebody's land, it's currently, now I believe it's zoned agricultural.
Yes.
Yes, with the previous, I mean, it has a home on it.
Yes, it's agricultural with a home on it. General plan, though, says residential moderate.
Yes.
So just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Which, so everybody knows, allows 2.88 or 2.8 units per acre. So.
Yeah.
And what went before city council was 5 units per acre. So.
Yeah. So, making that, saying that needs to be green space, that is something that we could totally say, this needs to stay as agricultural, and whatever agricultural, that's devoted to. So I just wanted to say that is an option. Now, with respect to what has been recommended from city council, what has been proposed, I've seen these live-work units before. Some that I'm very familiar with are up in Logan, Park Place Estates. It has been there for a good 5 years now. There's like a hairdressing place, a carpet retailer, like an outlet retailer. a few just office spaces, just like office, for, let's say like a real estate office or, somebody who just needs a place to have a business, place to do business. It is a very low traffic location. Just to say from my experience, I've seen that, that concept, it's much larger than this. And, frankly, it's not a horrible idea, but, I just wanted to kind of like just share some of my experience with that what this is, indicating is definitely not a family-friendly environment per se. This is, if somebody wanted to live here, it's definitely not for a demographic of people that are looking to, have open space for kids and stuff like that. Obviously, you can't really constrain that, who decides to move in. So, if somebody, does own one of these and, wants to have a family, and they've got little kids on big wheels that want to run through the, parking lot, that is conceptually what could happen. But so I do have some concerns there. Whereas this was proposed back in July as just homes, I felt like there was a little bit more ownership of a community with that. And so, that's some conflict that I had in seeing this. I do see the value, to this, having a commercial element and providing an opportunity for people to bring business into the city. But I do want to just say that, I do have some reservations there.
Okay, thanks. Chris, you want to go next? John?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of echo some of your comments. Obviously, it's not ideal for a family-oriented neighborhood next to it. I also have strong concerns with the exit, as Jordan Love mentioned, on Old Maple Road. I understand what you're saying, as in 475 is not a good option, but I think Old Maple Road is a worse option from the community side, with the bus stop being right there. Right there, that entrance is a bus stop, and pushing all those commercial spaces into a residential community doesn't seem correct to me. You said we could eliminate it, but does it need two access to exits?
It's under 30 units.
Oh, it's under 30 units, okay.
Right? Isn't that your 30 units or more requires 2 access points? Fire code.
For the number of units, there may be a distance requirement that would require a second access.
Okay. Yeah, and I just had, and with the units above, I don't know how you would regulate that as an owner and an employee. Obviously, that is the regulation of code, but I don't know how you would regulate who lives there. It'd be very hard, is my understanding, right? I mean, unless you're gonna go knock on the door and ask them, or how that works, to regulate who is gonna live there. I also have a concern, I mean, I guess before all this is the amendment to the general plan. I was not part of this, but I know it's quite a big ordeal to make that, and to change it, like as discussed, is kind of a big deal, because it's just for one property. I kind of have heartburn over that one. So that's my initial comments.
You want to go?
Okay. Yeah, again, agree with them. I'm super grateful for everybody that came tonight, and I share your opinion on what South Weaver is. And I made that my first comment in city or planning commission meeting on the reason why I moved here. So I feel strongly about what it is that we're trying to preserve and what we have here. That being said, we went back and forth on this last meeting, or whatever meeting we did that.
July 11th.
July, and that was, at that point, that house had no intentions of coming down, which is why there wasn't the other entrance. And now clearly that's been changed. And along with, I mean, I agree with them. I'm not super familiar with this type of space at all. I mean, the way that you described it, just as far as the, office front, and I mean, I know several of those. I guess my concern with some of those is when you mentioned HVAC, which would also imply other services that will be, depending on the size that they are and what they can fit in there. I mean, you're talking, I'm in auto repair. I service several fleets, and like I have HVAC, electrical, plumbers that have 1 to 15 vehicles, and every one of them is at their shop in the morning, loading up for whatever they need for the day, and generally unloading at night. Now, most of them, if not all, take those vehicles home, so they're not there all the time. But I mean, it's in some of the parking lots that, these fleets that we service, it's just chaos in the mornings, and or usually not in the evenings as much, because they roll in at different times, but in the morning, everybody's there. So just even based on what size we're talking about, I mean, if you even just had one of those in one of these units, I mean, you could fill a good chunk of those spots, and I'm not seeing how we would keep that from happening. Maybe it's a plumber who's just starting out and he kills it, and now he's added 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 trucks to it, and now they're all there in the morning, and now they're irritating other tenants because they're taking other spots, and then you just create this chaos that it could turn into. I'm also, I understand what it says, but aside from those concerns, I'm totally not into the 35-foot height idea in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it's bad enough that you only have the short distance between that back row of the townhomes, and then you're talking a 10-foot offset. I mean, it's going to feel like you're in a canyon right there if you had 35-foot. And my other concern is what was the reason, sort of fitting as much as you could, that you came up with 15 units as opposed to, with the majority of, I mean, only 3 are the bigger. The other ones all appear to be the same size, as opposed to doing fewer and more of the big ones. Like what, my point of just eliminating that entire west row of them, which would allow you to, I mean, still let those people actually look out their back window if they so chose to. Yeah. And now you have people, if you do have people like the salon that you mentioned. I mean, I use the example when I saw this, I pulled up Google Maps, and I'm in Centerville during the day. So the Centerville Walmart has a building across the parking lot for like T-Mobile and Jersey Mike's and stuff. And it's a nightmare parking lot if you haven't ever been in it, but it's only, that one's 21. So it is 5 feet narrower than this, but I mean, 26 feet to like back out. And if you got other people pulling in and out, just seems like super narrow. And it seems like if you didn't have as many units, that part would be an easy fix and make it less necessary to look at having 2 egress spots on it. And then, yeah, I 100% agree that we just want to all agree we can just make it a park and just be a park. I'm all for that. But I say that with every property, and I don't ever get my way. So that's all I had for right now.
Yeah, and on the parking, because that was one of my issues I forgot to bring up, is if there is residential, 15 of them times potentially 2 cars, and there's 30 cars out there, that they're a lot. So
That is,
yeah.
I guess it's my turn. Oh,
And
go
one
ahead.
more thing. And with the question on how you're going to regulate who's going to live in these, I could put anybody on a W-2 or 1099,
Right,
and they work for me. So that there's no possible
Vetting.
way to regulate that.
There's no vetting either. So when I started looking at this, I was having heartburn but it was more about the fact that I think this is the first time in my now 3.5 years of being on the planning commission that we have ever had a general plan amendment being requested on a future land use. That didn't sit well with me, especially going from agricultural all the way up to commercial highway. And when I look at what is permitted in our condition or our commercial highway zone, there's a lot of elements that there is no way I would ever want that in this piece of property. This is a very hard piece of property to find something that is really going to be cohesive and fit in. And of course, as I was reviewing the general plan, came across a paragraph, and it's page 17 for reference underneath the commercial section specifically, that says care should be given to any commercial development adjacent to a residential or planned residential area. A buffer between the two land uses that reduces the negative impacts of the commercial development is strongly encouraged. And in reading that, I don't feel like we are reducing the negative impacts on that residential zone that's going to be buffering this. I share the concerns with having the 2 access points, especially the one that right now I know bus stops change. I know they don't have to stay in the same location, but right now this is where our kids are being picked up for school. And I would never want to be responsible for putting those kids in harm's way by permitting a driveway access that's right there where they're being picked up and dropped off. It's not just one time a day, it's multiple times during a day. I go back to the parking spaces. I don't think with what's being presented with the 15 units that there is sufficient parking for the use. I would like to see, and I guess since we're giving what we would like to see opinions out there, instead of 3 buildings, 1. And 1 building that really did reflect the renderings that were shown to us, that has the variation, that has the differences. I think that is something, any commercial that we bring into the city, we want to be viable. We want it to be successful. We don't want it to be vacant storefronts that sit empty, that sit open for vandalism, that sit open for squatters or any of those types of things, because I do not think that benefits our community. And I don't think it helps us keep that rural feel that all of us have fallen in love with and want to keep here in South Weaver City. So I am having heartburn over this. I don't want to go. I actually like that the future land use, I'll throw it out there. I like that it's residential moderate. I wouldn't mind it being a smaller housing community because I think that fits. But I also have to weigh it with, this is our second gateway. We always talk about the gateway to the city. Well, this is our West End gateway. So how do we make this stand out and look like we want it to look and be inviting and welcoming to people as they're driving through our community? You know, I don't want it just to be blank walls, 35 feet tall. You know, I want it to be something that's welcoming. And again, that's going to be viable and be here in 30 years, you know, and not just an eyesore and grown weeds. And since we can't have, I mean, if anybody wants to buy the property and make it a park, let me know if you have that kind of funding available, because I have some other opportunities I'd like to talk to you about. Just throw that out there. The only other thing, power lines are a concern for me because I don't think the building height is going to be there. Also, do we know the impact? And I guess this would be something that would come with a traffic impact study, is just the delivery vehicles, because even small businesses have deliveries. They have supplies that need to be brought in. Have we taken that into account? I know that the hammerhead was mentioned, but it's great that you can turn around within the community. Can you even get into it with the access points that have been provided in an emergency? Or are we just planning on having our fire trucks fight the fires from 475 if there ever was to be something in this area? That's a concern. I'm going to continue. The development agreement, I was able to get through the improved one, about half of it. And I do appreciate, Lance, your clarification on that one page. You can see what I got through. It's highlighted. It's only the first 3 pages. Where it references that the development agreement basically trumps city code. That didn't sit well with me at first, because I don't think any developer has the right to come into a city and dictate what our code is. That's something that we as a city dictate with the impact, or the involvement of our citizens. And that's why the general plan for me, it is a guiding document, and I respect it because I know a lot of hard work and time went into creating it. So it's not something I will give away lightly, what's being recommended there. So
I just have a couple of other questions if I can.
Mhm.
What's like the rough? I mean, what do these kind of units sell for? Like, do you have any idea on that at all? I guess my concern is like, I mean, I see enough even lease space that's still
Vacant.
vacant when there's these smaller units. I mean, if you got a 50,000 square foot warehouse, those seem to be going quick. But it seems like some of these smaller units, I even see like for lease ones. So I guess my concern is, even if like we got to the point where I fully understood and embraced this whole idea, are they going to build and then it's going to turn into, well, we can't sell them, so I got to do something. So now we're coming back and asking to lease them. And now you're going to take away from, I mean, the idea of at least owning them is people taking care of the space way better than somebody who's leasing for sure. But now if you go back, now you're in the spot where you do have these service companies that come in and they just beat up and destroy and could care less because they're just leasing it for a business. They don't live in the community. So that was one of my other concerns that I missed. I was just wondering if you had any idea on even like what something like this.
I don't know what I'm not in the real estate.
No, you're good. I was just curious.
Just a couple things I'd kind of like to add. There are some in Riverdale right across the street from our office.
Can you give an approximate location?
We're at 5160 West, no, 5160 South, 1500 West, right behind Harley Davidson.
Okay, behind Harley
Yeah,
Davidson.
yeah, up there on the way up.
So we're
towards
right behind Harley Davidson.
I-15.
That's what is
Okay.
west of us and south of us. As far as fire goes, the roads, they're fire code road widths. The radius points are there to get the 28-foot radius on the face of the curb. That is a full hammerhead at the end. We didn't show parking on that north end, but that whole north end could become a parking lot if you have issues with parking. There's plenty of space in here.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason why we did make the unit shorter was to put a driveway in the front, so there wouldn't be, basically a corridor of buildings face to face.
Okay.
They don't necessarily have to be 35 feet tall. I believe that's the maximum height in your code. So that's why the 35 feet was put in there. I think they're gonna be 2 stories tall. So I can't imagine they'd be much taller than the townhomes behind. Shane put 35 because that's what your maximum building height is.
Okay.
And then again, just that access to Old Maple Farm or Old Maple Road is there because that's what the city council didn't want, one access. We don't need it.
Yeah, and my concern is also with that entrance is it's like right on that bend. I mean, even that road, I don't know the road, I guess it'd be like the next road to the
Old Maple Road.
east of 475, like that comes out of that new neighborhood that's like kind of right there on that bend as well.
That is Old Maple Road.
Oh, is that right?
That's Old Maple Road.
Well, I'm talking back on South Weaver Drive.
Okay. Oh, you're
The
going
big
all the
bend,
way
yeah.
back up to.
I'm just
South
thinking of
River
like where bends are when you're trying to pull out or see around. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and it's like, and this one just being like so close to the intersection. I mean, during the day, yeah, you probably won't have a problem, but we keep talking about like the bus stop. And I mean, I've lived over there before. So like it seems like traffic is light enough most of the time that you see kids just kind of wandering wherever. I mean, even when I was out walking my dog, I'd wander down the middle of the road at early hours in the morning. But now you put like another entrance or exit, and if they miss something or like the mailbox concern, I agree with that. I got mail out of those mailboxes a lot. So I mean, as much as I get the idea of having the 2, not that I'm a big fan of the one, leaving out onto the main road anyway, but I get that you have to somehow get in and out. Yeah, just that one on the bend, it just seems like that's gonna be a bit of a blind coming out and around. I don't know.
I just see
All
our,
this is just It's really setting in.
General RV park, like people with their RVs attached to trucks, making a left-hand turn into general RV and somebody trying to exit off of 475 and on, like,
And I live off this and it's already getting a lot busier and we have general RV hasn't got there yet.
I
so-
actually drove this area because I wanted to make sure I was very familiar with the layout and everything over there. And I don't know how you guys do it because, and this was not at a high peak traffic time of the day. Everybody was pretty much home from work and I still was just like,
Yes.
no.
It's gotten real busy. I don't know what's going on, but yeah. Plus with the soccer field and all that, yeah.
I didn't even realize the soccer impacts because are they really using Old Maple Road to get to
Yeah.
the soccer complex?
And they.
Yeah, because they get off the freeway and.
And that's the road they take.
It's a
Yeah.
shortcut.
Yeah. Yeah, even though they're
It's not,
instructed.
there's signs that say no
Yeah, and it's
soccer
very,
access,
they do
correct?
instruct them and they do tell them, but how much can you stop?
Because I don't know if that's
It's not
something for the
enforceable.
city that we
Yeah.
need to,
Yeah.
the signage, flashing
Plenty
lights.
on that.
Yeah.
That's on the-
We won't go
Is
to
that another agenda item?
That's number 8.
Okay.
We're gonna get into that. Let's get into it.
I know where I stand.
Yeah, and then I guess, and we will vote on each one.
Well, so here's kind of the caveat. First thing is we have the general plan projected land use map amendment. Do we feel that what's been presented is sufficient to permit the projected land use amendment to be changed
I
from
do not.
agricultural
I do
to commercial highway?
I don't know.
No, no, no. Okay, well, I'm also in agreement with that. So given that we do not, as a commission, agree with the projected land use changing from residential moderate to, because it's not agricultural, it's residential moderate to commercial highway, that nullifies needing to discuss any of the other items.
Yeah, we
Okay.
gotta make. a
I just wanted to make sure that because they are such separate items, but one each
Yeah.
item.
And just to educate, so you know.
Yes.
They have a right to due process.
100%.
They put the application in, yes or no? They put this application in, yes or no?
Yep.
And you make that recommendation.
Okay.
So.
So you guys all understand?
Yep.
All right, who's gonna be brave enough to make a motion on,
I move to recommend denial to the city council, the general plan projected land use map amendment
do I have a second?
I second that.
You moved to what?
to denial, is
Deny.
it?
Or to.
Deny.
Yeah.
Is that what it says on here? I'm reading.
Recommend denial.
That's what our cheat sheet says.
All 3 of these are recommendations to the city.
Yep, we're recommending, it follows the
Yeah.
little cheat sheet that we have. If you want to reference that, Michelle.
You want a cheat sheet?
You want to,
So I have Davis and who seconded that?
Scola,
You say Davis?
Roberts,
Oh, sorry, Robert, sorry.
she was thinking Jeremy.
I'm thinking Jeremy, sorry.
It's okay. All right, and I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote. I will start and yes.
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 Okay, motion so carries. And then we do still need to go through the remaining items. So development agreement for Cooper's Landing.
And then can these just be continued? Or are they gonna be, do they need,
It
I
needs to
mean,
be a denial.
would it be a denial? No, I don't.
It's up to you. If you want to.
I mean, I would have continued this, I would have continued the other one if we would have, if that would have had an option, but
So you can recommend approval, recommend denial, or request to continue to a certain.
Continuance, yeah.
yeah, I move to continue the development agreement for Cooper's Landing subdivision approximately 6525 south, 475 east by applicant Shane Turner.
Can I interject really quick?
Yeah.
Does that then allow the developer to go back and make changes and come back with a revision to his plan without necessarily restarting the application process all over again, correct? Okay, just want to make sure everybody understands. Okay, so we've got a motion on the table.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
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 I'm a no.
And sorry, maybe I should, that's on the amendment, which is also their recommendation on the whole map right there, right?
That is just
Yes,
on the development
specifically
agreement.
Regarding number 6.
Mhm.
Okay,
So,
yes.
which is.
Sorry,
specifically the-
I'll change that. So I was thinking just on that, I'll change that to no as well.
A no?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Roberts.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
I am still a no. Okay,
That motion fails.
that motion fails. Because
So
we're,
what, you need to make another.
so it can't just fail.
That motion.
That was the motion to continue.
Oh, so now you have to,
So then.
So we're
What
either
other
approving it,
options do you have?
approving with conditions or denying.
So
So
we
I'm
want-
gonna make a motion that we deny to the city council, recommend denial to the city council, the development agreement for Cooper's Landing subdivision of approximately 6525 South, 475 East by applicant Shane Turner for the following reasons. Is that the land use general plan projected amendment failed. And do I have a second?
oh, go ahead.
Can I ask follow-up on that? So by denying it, I mean, at some point, something's gonna come forward to us.
Yeah, but it means this development agreement that was
So we're
presented
saying
with
this one
commercial
just is
highway.
now, we're just
is-
saying is done, we wanna throw it away, we don't want it just.
No commercial
corrected or
highway.
made Better. Or something different.
Denying means we're not recommending for approval of the development agreement as presented.
This one, yeah.
Continuing it allows the development agreement to come back.
Yeah, but we were a locked vote, so it doesn't count.
Right.
But they can still come back with like a residential or whatever, you know.
I mean, they can still come back with the same
Yeah.
plan.
Mhm.
Right, so we're not saying that that's off the table. We're saying that we want that.
Improved.
So I guess I'm just.
Don't make it complicated,
I
simple.
feel like I make.
So we're denying this one, but they could come back with,
Okay.
like, they couldn't come up with a, you know,
Okay.
different one, yeah. I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
I'm making it complicated too here for just a second because Chad brought up a point. I want to know the difference between continuing versus denying this development agreement.
Well, continuing got shot down. So it's not an option.
Well, it got shut down once.
Yeah, I'm just.
That's correct. You can take
Okay.
that motion out.
Does the motion have to be restated?
You've got a motion on the floor, it's been seconded.
Yep.
Now you're discussing, so you can discuss those options.
We're doing a roll call
Whatever
vote on the
happens, you can
denial.
make another motion.
Yeah, and then if it gets locked again, it gets locked again.
Well, then,
To your question of, if you continue it, and technically you'd have to pick a date certain, so, you know, 2 months from now, a planning commission. You could recommend denial, the applicant could say, oh man, I got a lot of information, I'm going to amend my application. They'll get to the city council, and the city council go, well, you changed a bunch since planning commission, go back to the planning commission, so they remand it back to you guys. So that would be another way to go. Continue.
The last option available to you is what's called tabling it. Tabling means that it sits
Until we bring it back up.
until you guys are willing to bring it back. Whether you've got new information, you've got some new.
Proposals.
New development or document, whatever it is, at that time, then the planning commission can actually pull that up and put it on the agenda.
so tabling and continuing are two separate motions.
Right, tabling is to be announced. It means that we're not touching this anymore, we're not making a recommendation, we're waiting for whatever to change, and at that time, we will bring it up. Continuing means that you will address this again automatically, either at the next meeting or at a date specified during the meeting. So if you don't have a date, you should always table. If you do have a date that is coming back, then you can do a continuance.
I like the table option.
Given that information, let's first finish with the motion that was on the table and seconded for the denial. So roll call vote, Chris Roberts,
Yes.
No.
No.
and I'm a yes. So that motion fails. Right back to the starting point.
So, my understanding with the table, they can come back with any amendments or whatever they would like, right? So it's not necessarily we're tabling the same agreement. I mean, we are, but they can come back and change whatever they want.
Give them an opportunity.
100%.
And we're at this point, enough information has been given that realize that something, we're expecting to see a change of some sort. Like, don't,
Yes.
I'm not gonna just get the same thing presented back to me.
Yeah, that would be
Right,
foolish.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I wanted. So, I'll try this out.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's try.
Third time's the charm.
Hey, that's what they say.
Make it so.
I don't have a cheat sheet for this. I'm just gonna wing it. So I move to table the development agreement for Cooper's Landing subdivision at approximately 6525 South, 475 East by applicant Shane Turner.
I'll second that motion.
Do reasons need to be provided on a table? No? Okay. And does a date need to be provided for when it gets picked back up? Perfect. Was it seconded? Okay. All right. Roll call vote. Yes.
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 There we go. Tabling. We're not done yet.
No, now it's gonna get.
And to confirm, do we decide on the tabling or do they?
Yes, we
Okay.
decide when we bring it back up. And I'm guessing, Lance, that's something that we would let you know because it would need to be an agenda item on our meeting, whatever meeting we were gonna bring it back.
My thought would be this time gives the applicant time to
Yep.
make whatever changes they want. They come back and say, we'd like to be on such and such date. I'd ask you guys.
And that would be something between you and chair
I like that.
and vice chair?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I wasn't sure who exactly needs to be notified of that. Okay, perfect. We still have the zone change for Cooper's Landing. Yep, we're not done yet.
If our discussion has been sufficient, I'll make a motion to deny. I recommend denial. The city council.
Flip it over.
It's right here at the bottom, right?
Follow
No.
cheat sheet.
Other one.
Thank you. Yeah, I move to recommend denial to the city council, the zone change for Cooper's Landing subdivision from agricultural A to commercial highway CH by applicant Shane Turner.
I second. Roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
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 And yes. Getting easier, guys. All right, and we are not done yet, but is everybody doing okay? Does anybody need personal point of personal privilege? We're
I'm
doing
ready
okay?
now.
All right, we're gonna carry on. So next agenda
Almost second
item
win.
is number 8, and this is going to be for the conditional use approval for general RV inventory lots at approximately 108 East South Weaver Drive. And first, with the conditional use approval, I would like Lance to go ahead and give us, I mean, we've already kind of had a little bit of comment that was made, but I'd like you to give us kind of city stance, go over the
I'll
memo.
give a high level, and then let the applicant speak, if that's okay.
That's perfect.
And it's, this is a conditional use permit requirement for this zone, for this use. And it's for an inventory lot for RV storage. There's been some, this project has been going around, and so the addendum that came out today, there's been a lot of back and forth and changes trying to address those issues. The changes that came out today were making a final modification to the overall site plans based on new information on the canal. The canal company does not want it tiled at this time. They're okay with it being an open canal and remaining that way. But maybe in the future that would, maybe in the future that would change. So the proposal, the wall got moved to 20 feet or so back. 16 feet back, and then that area would be landscape. The other areas, the other elements of landscape requirements and what are that site is slightly elevated from the property to the north, but it's similar elevation to the west. There's not going to be a lot of grading changes, so I don't think there are any plans for retaining walls on, especially the first phase, and I don't think on the second either. So given that the Public Works building and site, its wall to the west was allowed to be 6 feet. It's up to the planning commission if you would like to consider this being 6 feet as well. But it is your call. You can give that exception or not. The use, there was some discussion of it being sales or events being held there, signage, that type of thing. It would strictly be the conditional use permit is for inventory. So this is not a place where customers are coming and that type of thing. It would just be employees coming, driving an RV and taking it to the general RV for sales. Back and forth. Kingston Drive access, I believe has always been discussed as only should something very challenging happen on South Weaver Drive access. So we could clarify that with a condition of approval. If there's concerns there, and I would fully support making sure that it's really clear what we're doing here. So there's no problem at all.
Would you mind if we pulled that up just so everybody could have a reference point to the Kingston Drive access? I think that would be helpful.
And there's 2 gates to get to that one, right? Is there a gate by the city office building and then you go to the
So the
second?
primary access point will be from South Weaver Drive going past the public works site. And then they have it.
Correct, but for the Kingston one, you have to go through a gate of the public works and then the gate onto Kingston, right?
That's right.
Okay, so there's technically 2 gates to kind of block, yeah.
Right, which would be another reason why you can see it would be discouraged to go that way.
Correct, okay.
The reason that it shows 2 accesses is because that was a requirement of UDOT for the access onto South Weaver Drive. That this property have, you know, both properties, both Public Works and this property has 2 means of ingress and egress. Yeah. Doesn't mean that they are both equally used, right? But they need to be available.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Any questions for me on, like, in the use? I mean, the lights came up as an issue. The lighting is, we have a lighting plan that shows that at the perimeter of at the edge of the property, the light levels are into very low and then almost non-existent going.
Are the lights shielded like they have been for other developments? One thing I just want to note to the audience is amendment 2, which was added to the city website, actually shows the detailed plat renderings for the light plan, for the landscaping that was not included in the original packet. So there is new information out there that was not provided prior to the meeting originally. So if you wanted to take a look and go see exactly what their landscaping plan is, as well as the light plan is in there. And I believe, I will say this, having looked at light plans, if you zoom in, you can actually see the numbers that come in and where they measure, in case you've never read one before. It's very nerdy, it's very analytical and detailed with the data, but it does show you what the impacts are based on how they measure. I believe it's the lumens that they measure. So it's something that's important to go look at, especially for those, because I know there was concerns expressed about the light impacts and the overflow into the residential orders. And there was something else that was on there too. No, it does not show that elevation. Okay.
That's the lighting plan that's up on the screen now.
Yep, this is your lighting plan. And those little dots are actually numbers, even though you can't see it from here. Just some people, see? It'll render in a second. Okay, anything else from staff? Engineering? You want to weigh in on anything?
If I could, I would just like to address one item that was brought up directly referencing my memo. When it talks about things being waived. I just wanted to restate that if I could, so it's understood what I was saying. Section 10, 15, 14E allows any provision contained in this chapter may, with just cause, be waived by the city council with the advice of the planning commission. For these requirements to be waived, the developer should request that they be waived and provide just cause for that reasoning. Due to the requirement for piping, which at the time that I wrote this, the canal company was requesting that it be piped.
I remember that.
So keep that in mind. But due to the requirement for piping the canal along the north property line, we would recommend placing the masonry fence on the property line and requesting that the landscape requirement of the buffer yard be waived as it, next page, as it is unlikely that the Riverdale Bench Canal Company will allow landscaping inside their easement. So I am not recommending that we just throw things out. I simply was trying to address that. I don't think that the canal company, if it's piped, will allow you to plant trees on top of the pipe.
And isn't that, so they are not, their plans are
But
not.
currently,
to
no,
pipe?
currently the request from the developer was for this phase, this is phase one,
Mhm.
that it would not be piped. They did not want to pipe it. And I think after discussion with the Riverdale Bench Canal Company and some additional distance given for, you know, cleaning and dredging along the canal where they're proposing to put the fence now, the canal company, I think, is open to leaving it open at this point.
Okay. And you said the fence was pushed back from what to
From,
what?
I don't know the exact numbers. It was an additional 16 feet.
It was about 24 feet is where the fence was, now we're 30 and 40. So
Okay.
It's not well over the required 20-foot buffer area.
Right, so from the backyard perspective of the residents that live there, all of the vegetation that is currently there, they're proposing not to touch any of that, and then they would put the masonry fence on the south side of that. So it would, at least along that section, it would largely feel still fairly similar to what it feels like now. But you do have to keep in mind that this is phase one, and phase two they may request something different, but that's what's proposed right now. So I'm just making sure that it's clear what we're operating on, the information we have right now.
Because that was one thing that I noted on the amendment two, or addendum two, was that they're on the landscaping plan specifically, there did not appear to be any trees, plants, plans for anything on that south border of the residences that are off of Raymond, I believe. Is it Raymond or Harper? Harper, yep, off of Harper. There was off of Raymond, and there was off of what will be the future Nielsen development. So I'll admit, given that there's now additional spacing there and it's not going to be piped, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, or what is it? Yeah, piped, that there would be revisions and trees added to that landscaping plan. Just maybe I'm getting ahead of myself by putting that out there, but
So are you suggesting planting additional things in that area?
if possible. I don't know.
Above and
if-
beyond the vegetation that's already there?
Well, what is the existing vegetation that's there?
It's pretty heavy.
Shrubs?
Well, and I agree, because we can't control what's there.
Yeah.
We can control now.
We can control now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the canal, it's just the vegetation along the existing canal right now.
Okay.
Owned by the canal company.
Yep, that they can.
Well,
rip
the
out.
canal company doesn't own the property. They
It's
have-
the
they have an
easement they have. Who
so
owns the property?
I don't want, the property owner and the canal company will be the ones that
Could take that vegetation out.
yes, they could take the vegetation out. Yes, they could. If there is a provision in the conditional use permit that governs and guides that process, then they would have to come back, or they'd have to come for some specific approval.
Okay.
Otherwise, if that's not specifically covered, then if the canal company at some point in time feels like, it's too hard to maintain, or we're too worried about liability, or, I mean, because open canals also, pose a safety risk. So let's make sure that both sides are known. Then yes, they could maybe do that. So if you want to be very specific about how that canal is handled, then you would want to make sure that you state that and put that in your recommendations on the conditional use permit.
Okay. Sorry if I shifted the gear. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the podium to the developer or the representative for the general plan or general RV inventory lot site plan. If you wanted to come forward and share any information, maybe address any of the concerns. I think you guys have been here through the meeting, so you heard the public comment that was given. So now is gonna be your opportunity to take to the podium and address the commission. We're here to listen.
Good evening, Kevin Chonchuk with South Weaver LLC and General RV Company. I think Lance did a pretty good job, and Brandon, describing the overall development. It's about 5.3 acres. We're doing the development in 2 phases. First phase is about 4.2 acres, giving us about 140 parking stalls for new RVs and new towable units. No used units on the site. There will be no sales or any kind of service on the site, no buildings that I know of at this point. The only thing I could ever see possibly being on that site would be like almost temporary guard shacks, but I don't think it's gonna, what we would have to come back for a site plan change for something like that anyway. So that is not on the books. The impact is gonna be probably the least impact you could have on a site, on a commercial site, right? You're not gonna have any kind of full-time employees on site, not gonna have any parking for employees. You're not gonna have people working there. As Lance or Brandon said, as we need RVs at the main site, we'll come over and yank them and bring them over. So it's gonna be quiet. It'll be low impact and hopefully not create a nuisance for any of the neighbors. So it was discussed that the canal would not be piped. We've been trying to negotiate that with the bench canal. Reason being is we don't really need it, and we feel like the leaving as much of that natural buffer as possible is better for the neighbors. We don't really want to get into that into their fence and to manipulating the location of the canal and all that. So there's already some pretty good growth there. Try to leave as much on the south side as possible. That it's not going to be, it won't be possible to maintain all of it. We've got some grading. The canal company will need access. That's why we're leaving the 16 feet between the high bank on the south side to our new 6-foot wall. So there will be some grading there, but all that whatever we take down would grow back naturally on that side. So, and then of course, anything on the north side of the canal, which would remain as is right now. So I just walked it earlier today. It's hard to see the houses through through that south side vegetation. West side is a different story, but the south side certainly is pretty well mature at this point. And then as far as I know, our intentions are only to use the main exit out of South Weaver Drive. As Brandon mentioned, the Kingston curb cut is for UDOT, so we don't need it for any reason. And banner day sales wise would be 8 or 10 RVs. So if a big day would be having 8 or 10 RVs getting yanked out of there. You wouldn't even, I would suspect you wouldn't even notice it. But any questions for Ross?
Any question? I was gonna say, let us have our discussion. If we need to call you back up, we
Sure.
will. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make sure I got your name right.
Kevin.
Kevin?
Chonchuk.
Okay, did you get that? Can you spell your last name?
SCHONSHECK.
Oh, yeah, I would have got it wrong.
Thank you. Yeah, I got it wrong.
I get it wrong.
I know, it feels so bad. All right, I'm gonna open this up for commission, discussion, questions, comments?
Sure. No, go ahead. So first of all, again, I super appreciate that we had people show up, and I really appreciated the email with concerns in it as well. So thank you for that. And as much as long I was unaware of how often this would happen in this position, but it just seems to me that and I haven't had a lot of opportunity. I have sat on the code committee, and there's a lot of thought and effort that goes into creating code and I feel like it's for a reason. And so all these requests that come up to change it and not use it, I'm having a hard time understanding. And I'll admit that I think that there's been probably more than one occasion where it's made sense and I've voted to do so. And I probably would again if it's something that I think is bettering maybe what the code had said. But when it comes to, I mean, I have friends down there in that canal in the backyard, and I've spent time back there. And so I'm visualizing like what the difference is going to be and the impact that it's going to have. And if it's, the code says 8 foot, then I see zero reason, and the cost is irrelevant to me. I could care less what the cost is. That's not my problem. It's a simple 2 feet that's being requested. And on top of that, like with I think we've now made clear where the wall is going to be, and because of grading and leveling that, I mean, it seems like it's not going to actually be an 8-foot wall from where you're parking anyway. I mean, based on some of the pictures that you sent. So, I mean, realistically, I would probably say higher and/or to ensure that the trees is going to be a thing. Like, it seems like there's so much uncertainty with canal and property owner, and if they come in and they need to make a change that, you know, you end up, and I understand, I get why it happens, but you end up with the same thing on 89 where you tear out half of a miniature forest, because we see what the result of having trees grow over piping does. I mean, I get, you know, nobody wanted that to happen, but we also all probably appreciate the water that we have too. So, which means if they were going to do the same thing over there, I mean, hopefully you would learn from other situations and you would say, well, we can't have, you know, some of this has to be moved or something. And now you're stuck with looking at your backyard at a bunch of RVs that are parked. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the lighting issue. I mean, I brought this up when we first started talking about general RV. And it was, the whole point was needing lights for security. And I felt like I made the argument back then, but maybe not, that it's 2024. And I feel like there's enough technology that you don't need lighting to be secure. But anyway, so I would, and I see that we have the lighting report. I mean, I'm in complete agreement that with everybody that's had their concerns, that I feel like there's other ways to be safe and keep things secure, that lighting doesn't detour anybody. I'm certain I could do Google searches and find plenty of crime that was committed in lit parking lots. So I do have a concern with, I mean, it's already bad enough that there's, you know, more and more light, you know, I mean, if you live anywhere up there, I mean, you can, I'm out on the road at 4:30 in the morning and you can tell that pit lights up quite a bit. So, I mean, everybody north, or excuse me, east is already dealing with that. So I don't see there any reason to be adding more to the west with that. And I do share the concerns. I feel like we have enough dust that I mean, that comes up in our meetings fairly regularly from the pits. And I think the effect is somewhat minimal right now to the west. I mean, I'd hope it's more minimized compared to what we have up here, but that, yeah, with and I don't know what we can require, what we can do with paving. Again, the cost is not my problem. So I don't know if this was ever brought up originally when this was discussed, but I think if it was, I missed it. If it wasn't, I think I assumed that it would be a paved parking lot. I mean, anybody who camps, if we want to use RVs as an example, and you drive into a campground that's dirt, you are driving 5 miles an hour and you still are going to make dust. Like, it's just not, it's unavoidable. Yeah.
And that was just a point of clarification that so it is the entire phase 1 surface. They're doing a crushed gravel, crushed cement? Like what is the
Yeah, maybe I'm
material?
just uncertain on what,
Because it's not asphalt, it's not paved.
and not tarred, it's just loose. Yeah, okay, that's what I was under the impression of. So, so that, I do share that concern, as well. There's not many that I don't share, but, and then I understand what you said about the entrance and the exit and not using roads that we do not want you to be using. And specifying, I would really like to see specified like in detail, like what things classify as emergency. If an accident happens on South Weaver Drive and it's going to be blocked for a few hours, that is not an emergency. You can wait for a few hours, and when the road reopens, you can use it. So when I think emergency, I think,
There is a
you know,
fire.
there's literally life in danger, and you have, I don't know why you'd have to, but you have to move something. I don't know. That's the only way I could see something being an emergency. So I guess I would like to see that that's for sure clarified. And I think that about, I'm sure I'll have something after somebody else
Those are your
talks,
thoughts?
but those were my initial thoughts that I waited for an hour and 59 minutes to say. So thank you.
There you go.
Mine are basically the same thoughts. I don't really have much more concern, and obviously we're sensitive to dust. There still is dusty over there, so that is a big concern of mine with the dust. There is a concern in Dave Randall, your pictures. Can you clarify which way we're looking? 'Cause I'm a little worried about how high it is and then retention of that. I couldn't tell exactly where the pictures were facing.
No, and I'll go ahead, do it if you want to go ahead.
Yeah.
So the picture that I sent you is of the combo box that's been put in as they've piped over the canal from the existing to the new route, right? And that combo box is 5.5 feet higher than the existing ground. So I don't know, I'm making an assumption here with the combo box, but the only reason you have a combo box that has an inlet on the top is to receive water. So there's no point in spending the extra money for this unless that's the finished grade. That's 5.5 feet above my existing ground.
Okay.
You said, sorry, 5.5 feet above.
So I had my 15-year-old son and I'm holding a 2x4 with a level on top of it, and he's got a tape measure, but it's right around
5.5 feet.
Now, obviously, right, the topo shows that the grade goes up as it goes north, but we're at least gonna have a 5.5 foot in the corner of our yard.
So that is one concern of kind of the retention of that and how that works. And that is in phase 2, which is also confirming phase 2 will be a secondary, will secondary go through the planning commission. Is that right? Or we have to specify that? If phase 2 will be, whatever happens with phase 2, will have to come back to planning commission, right? Or do we have to specify that?
I believe as is proposed, this is what you're looking at is phase 1 and 2B.
Okay.
Together.
No. Yes, yeah, we want, this is, phase 1 is gonna look like this, and phase 2 will be it's as shown on this site. But it won't be developed until they are ready. But it will be included with this approval.
Okay.
So any conditions that you want to place on what is designated as phase 2 would need to be put into the CUP tonight.
I'm sorry, I don't
Go ahead, no.
And phase 2 is only
this corner,
like an acre?
This
little
I don't know,
Roughly?
how big is it? Yeah.
Is there, I guess, I mean, I get money. I'm just curious as to why
Why
we're
we're
already
waiting.
doing 4.5 acres worth, and we're talking about just storage. I don't know, I'm just wondering if there's like something that we're gonna miss that can be.
I would assume because there's
added
a road
differently.
going.
So
They're waiting for the road and kind of
So
finding
here's-
that.
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
The
here's phase
expansion of
2,
Kingston.
kind of the proposed, what it's gonna look like.
No, Harper.
So this.
Right there.
No, well, that's what we need to discuss.
There's no access.
There's no
Yeah, there's no
access.
access.
Well,
There's no
there
access.
will be, right?
No,
No, that's a dead end. That's-
dead end.
Like these are all parking stalls all the way around.
I know it is right now, but if they don't, if they open that, it's access.
Mm-mm.
It's up to.
Well, if that land,
If you're concerned, then just make sure you say there will
There
Yeah,
will be
I'm
no,
saying
any access.
never access to
General RV
Harper.
could open this to this road potentially, so we
Not
need
if
to
we
make
say
sure,
no.
yes, exactly. that
Not
we-
if we say
I
no.
see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
that road became existence.
It is, they're working on it now,
Oh, okay, then
Yeah.
they could theoretically move those spots.
because this is gonna be the access to the new Nelson
Yeah.
subdivision.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, so, and then obviously I agree with 8-foot wall on all three sides, west, east, and north. It doesn't have to be a 8-foot wall on the city side, but I would agree, yes, keep the 8-foot wall on all sides of that residential. But everything else, yes, I agree with, thank you again, Dave Randall, for providing that information, super helpful. That's my 2 cents right now.
One more thing before someone else goes, but I remember the one thing that I had forgot. And I don't know if this is even an option, but as far as, I mean, if this is a conditional use, can we make a condition be what times of day things can be moved off that lot?
During business hours.
Well, I don't like that either, but,
Well, when else
I
are they
mean,
gonna be
more,
doing it?
well,
2 o'clock
I
in the
just
morning?
mean like more specific during business hours as opposed to like when, you know, everybody feels like it's the slowest part of the day. I think anytime you're just gonna be adding traffic and, I don't know, I guess I would just like to see that if as much can be controlled on how often those are moving in and out of there. I meant to ask that question when you were up here as far as like RV shows, and I think I asked this last year, and I could probably go back and read my notes and remember, but I don't remember the answer on like when you're doing, you know, I know that, I mean, we at least have 2 shows in Sandy a year, and I don't know how often from this lot stuff would be pooled and how like those twice a year, if you said 140 on that original first lot, I mean, obviously you're not taking all of them, but I guess I'm just curious, like how many would be coming from this location as opposed to all the south locations that are already, you know, close where you're going to have these, you know, several days a year where there's going to be, you know, essentially in and out traffic for, you know, 2 full days. Or maybe there won't be because they'll be coming from, you know, the south lots and no need to come from South Weaver. So I have that question, I guess.
I'm sorry, I'm blanking on your name again. Would you mind coming back up here really quick for a minute?
Sure.
Kevin
Kevin.
Stronshek.
Thank
Kevin.
you. Kevin, I apologize. I'm writing it in capital letters on my notes right now.
Appreciate that.
Kevin, not your last name, just your first name. In addition to Commissioner Skol's question, I would like,
I wasn't clear on the question.
Well, I'm just
ahead.
curious on how, I mean, I agree, I understand, I agree, like being in the RV, like buying them and selling them and buying them. And I've been on plenty of RV lots and I see that you're not, it's not, you don't have 30 going out a day for sales. Like, so that part, I agree with you on what you're saying. It's just like these occasional shows or like, and I'm sure other states neighboring have shows and I don't know how often they might be coming from here. So I'm just wondering like how many days a year and how much traffic is going to be going. I mean, anybody who's been to the RV, you know, show knows that they're really good at packing those into that convention center. So it's a lot that could potentially go, but I'm just curious, is there a lot that would be coming from the South Weaver lot as opposed to just the other general RV lots to, I mean, I'm just like those few times a year, are you going to have 30, 40 pulling in and out? And
It's a good question. I would suspect that they would come from the main lot because that's where they get cleaned up, right? Because that's where the guys
Okay.
are doing all the
Ready to
service
show.
and doing the PD,
Okay.
pre-delivery inspection stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say it would come from that side. You can't, we wouldn't be washing.
it doesn't
RVs in
make
the
sense
lots.
to do it from here. I'm
Right.
just curious.
Exactly.
but-
This is literally inventory storage only.
Okay.
So.
and my question, I think tags along, it's what is the route? Because I know there was some concerns that were voiced during public comment about what roads and what corners would be most impacted when it comes to moving these RVs from the storage lot to the main lot, the sales lot,
Oh, I've never even considered that.
what the
I think
route's gonna
it's
be.
South Weaver to,
The route that they will want you to take, we would all want you to take is South Weaver Drive, 475 East.
475 East. Yeah, that's. the way
And
I
that's
think.
the
I think
plan,
the
that's
way
the
it's-
intention.
Not going through on
Residential.
Old Maple Road.
Right, right.
Which that was discussed quite a bit last.
Well, and
year.
that was something I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
I
was
agree.
not lost and it's very clear in terms of the intention. Because I don't wanna, oh, hey, I'm not familiar with South Weaver, but now I gotta move this, 36-foot RV. And because if you make a wrong turn off South Weaver Drive, you're going to Riverdale.
Right.
There's
Well,
not
so
any place to turn around,
Our hope is that all the employees are South Weaver residents, so.
residents.
Yeah, they should
Do we
have an
wanna
idea what's going on.
do that?
And
I'll put that in the.
Must be a South Weaver resident to work at General RV.
Do our best to be sure.
And you probably don't need to answer this one. I guess I'm just curious based on the comment that was made on, and maybe nobody will give me an answer, but I've heard from several people, or the couple people down there on when they had approached to purchase. So I guess I'm just curious on when this land was officially purchased, and if there's anybody can speak to why the few people that I've heard from on not getting the opportunity to do so, is it because it was sold before anybody else had the opportunity, or was it, or what, does anybody have any?
Joel,
Oh, sure.
if you don't mind, we'll let Kevin sit down and then go ahead and
I
come
have
on
a
up.
question for Kevin.
Oh,
Do you have a question
Sorry,
first?
one more
Okay.
for
Just
hold-
really, really quick, on phase two, because it's not being developed right now, is that correct?
Correct.
What are you putting there? Like, is it just, are you doing anything
More
with
of the
it?
same.
Ground prep.
Just ground grub until it's developed or finished? So like what's going on the ground on phase two right now?
Whatever's.
Oh, you're not touching it?
I'm not touching it. Yeah,
Leveling
Okay.
it.
I have nothing to do with, we have nothing, we don't own the property.
You don't own
For
phase
phase
two?
two.
Who
No,
owns
we don't
phase
own
two?
any of it yet. We'll be closing when we're supposed to close, but.
Okay.
So currently, right now, this is city-owned land. Okay. Does that
Right.
answer? So right now, it's city-owned land.
And now
Phase
my
two.
curiosity's piqued way more.
Okay, so, but for phase two, when, if you buy it, you will just leave phase two as is, it is when you buy it?
Correct.
Okay.
And at some future date and time yet to be determined, when phase two is needed for inventory, then it will be developed to a standard matching what is in phase one.
Correct.
But we would have to put that requirement now.
Yes,
Okay.
whatever we require to be done on phase one. So I know there's been discussion about the crushed versus asphalt.
Mhm.
So. Okay, any other questions for Kevin while he's up here? Okay, Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
Sorry,
That's okay. Go ahead and please state your name.
yeah, Ashley Went, and I live at 129 Harper Way, and my parents are 117 Harper Way. About 5 years ago, we've been in the house for about 8 years. About 5 years ago with the previous mayor, I was noticing that the land got sold to the soccer complex. In the city notes, when the soccer complex decided that they were going to sell part of the land to South Weaver City, and then in the city notes, it was mentioned that they possibly did not need all of the land, but that the soccer complex wanted them to purchase the entire amount. At that time, so about 5 years ago, I approached the previous mayor and city manager with the intent that me, along with 4 or 5 of my other neighbors, my parents, so 4 other neighbors along Harper, so 4 out of like the 7 that are on the south side would be interested in purchasing any land next to behind our property for the same price that the city paid the soccer complex. The city manager was aware, the mayor at the time was aware. I checked in with them about every 3 to 6 months. They said, we're still waiting on the plans. We're still waiting on the plans. We don't know the plans for the South Weaver building. As soon as we know the plans for the South Weaver building, we'll reach out. We'll have a discussion about it. All of a sudden, I get a notice, it's been about 5 years.
I look at the city council notes here and there. All of a sudden, I happen to notice they've sold the land to General RV. I reached out to the city at that point because they had violated, the council had violated the code. They had not informed us, sent us proper notification to that they were going to sell the land. At that time, the city actually voided the sale because they hadn't followed the proper procedure. We came in, we met with the current mayor, my husband and I, he's actually out of town right now. We met with the current mayor and the city attorney. They basically said, and what the council decided, the city manager assured me that the council was aware that we were interested in selling the land or buying the land before they approved the sale to General RV. I'll be honest, I'm skeptical of that. At the time, we met with the city attorney, we met with the mayor, they assured us they knew about it, we still decided, and then basically the city council went through, followed the proper procedure, sent us all a notice, had a hearing, we came in and gave our opinion, and then they still decided to sell the land to General RV. They said basically that General RV would not purchase the land off of 475 unless they gave them other land somewhere in the city for an inventory lot, that they needed more land and that they decided to do that. I'll be honest, it all seems a little funny to me. You know, it doesn't add up. And yeah, I mean, it's been super infuriating. I mean, the council basically admitted when they retracted the sale that they had not followed proper protocol, and then made sure they followed it and then still sold it. Their statement was basically, well, we wanted to sell the land off for 475. We needed to give them other land. My argument, of course, would be the people of South Weaver that own the property are willing to buy it for the same amount. Why would you sell it to a company in the middle of a residential area when the residents want to purchase it? So yes, am I like infuriated at that? For sure. I'm not going to deny it. I'll say anytime that I would have purchased it, I would have purchased part of it, I would have purchased the whole 5 acres. And we made that very clear. Now, my concern would be, you know, and we've had a similar issue with the soccer complex, to be honest, that kind of was sold out from under us. Trevor's not here. I think he was here earlier. The land adjacent to his property, same thing. It was kind of sold. No one knew about it. All of a sudden we heard it was sold. We came to the meeting and they're like, oh, sorry, we already sold it. So it just seems, you know, why would you sell the 475 property? It seems like they knew in the background they were planning on selling that out from under us, in my opinion, right? I mean, I get it. They say, you know, it's more beneficial for all the residents of South Weaver, but whatever. I still think it was a little underhanded at the time. I think my main concern now, obviously, would I love to still purchase the property? For sure. My understanding and what the city has told me is it is sold. I have seen a few notices that they've delayed the closing or delayed, you know, the permit, that kind of thing. So I guess you could say it's not, but yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating.
I'm going to give you 1 more minute.
Okay, yeah, you're fine. I could go on forever. But my main concern today, obviously, because you guys can't all of a sudden let the citizens that own the property adjacent to it, is right now, and I actually was a little encouraged by Chad, is there are a lot of trees there right now. And my main concern was they're going to come in, they're going to bulldoze all the trees, and I'm going to look in my backyard and all I'm going to see is RVs. So on the plan, and that's my main concern, is on the addendum 2, if you look on the adjacent, it shows the canal, but then it shows that gray area there. And if you look at the description of the gray area, it mentions, you look up above in the key, I can't remember what they call it. It's like
rock mulch.
Some kind of rock mulch. So I guess my concern is he's saying he's going to leave the existing trees, which would be best case scenario, but this actually shows somewhat of a rock mulch, and where that rock mulch is adjacent to the canal behind my house would eliminate all the trees.
So there is point 11 on the irrigation notes that says existing trees where not in conflict with construction shall be protected in place.
Okay, but where it's showing, like where all that gray is, that is where those trees are.
That grade is the maintenance area for the.
So what trees?
There's no caveat to that.
And I get, no, for sure. I guess I'm just concerned, like, there's a ton of trees there right now. And where that gray says rock mulch would eliminate the trees. So I would essentially, and I am a little bit of an exception. I'm lot 23. So the canal, when you look at that dark line, other people have trees right on the other side of the dark line. But that, I mean, I guess that's my only concern is on this, what you guys are going to approve. It says some kind of rock base. But what he said is he's going to leave the existing trees. And they have had access to that property for a while. I mean, they come in with bulldozers every once in a while, but they don't touch the trees. So I think that's the buffer yard where you're supposed to have 25-foot tall trees is the concern.
Ashley, thank you very much. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
the
you.
history.
Thank you.
Background. Okay. Of course, I will have to make note to the commission that obviously that is not something that's under the purchasing
Well,
of the land and
right,
all of
I-
that
I
is not
mostly-
planning commission
Oh, I
purview
know that.
at all, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
And
just was providing
It's good
an
background.
opportunity for it to be discussed.
So I've got a few notes here.
Go for it.
I want to talk about. I've been poring over these drawings. And I've got a few questions. Let's get the stupid one out of the way. What is the red hatched semicircles that show up on every single one of these drawings?
Yes, that was on the screen.
Wes is the engineer. He can answer that.
Yeah, you get to introduce yourself.
Wes Stewart, I live in South Ogden City, representing Gardner Engineering. That's a buffer area that the power companies require that we just provide this zone where we don't park, basically.
Okay.
That's for their access. It's just required. We had to do that on the prior approved plans, so that's what that is. It really doesn't need to be on the landscape plan, but he left it on, so.
Okay, and while you're there,
Totally.
I found the elevations, the existing elevation lines, but I didn't see what the developed elevations were going to be.
So go to the grading sheets. That's probably a better one to look at. If you look at the civil grading plans.
I don't think that they don't have the full
Plans.
set in the packet.
Oh, wasn't it?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't, I can give you on average, our pavement section is 21 inches. We'll be taking out 6 to a foot inches of topsoil, whatever topsoil comes out, and then we'll be replacing it. So the effective change on average would be no more than 2 feet above it. Well, probably even less than that by the time you take out, probably be more than about 12 inches to 18 inches above what the existing ground
Correct.
is. Yep.
Existing.
I had a question about that.
But
So
there
just-
are areas though, like along the canal, that were graded by others, other people put that canal in and piped it. And so as these residents mentioned, but that wasn't our doing. That happened with the other approved site plans that other developers have already been approved on.
So for the grading right now on phase 1 that is along that north boundary, which is which basically goes along the residential, where is the height right now sitting from where it was?
So it will be exactly where it is on the north side. We're not touching anything there. The top banks of the canal on the south side is exactly where it is right now,
Mhm.
the high bank of the canal. And then we're grading it up
When you say up, are you saying east or west?
to the south about.
South, okay.
I don't anticipate more than 2 feet higher. It's approximately 2 feet higher than existing ground.
So about a difference of 2 feet.
Mhm.
Okay.
Correct.
Sorry. I
So,
wanted to
and
get that
that's one
clarified really
reason
quick.
why a 6-foot wall would help, in my opinion, it's less of a block of the Hill Air Force Base or whatever the residents mentioned, but if they want an increase to 8 feet, we could certainly do that. We're not opposed to changing it to be an 8-foot wall if that's what people want here tonight.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Wes.
Thank you.
So, kind of piggybacking on what was mentioned about the mulch that is there kind of right underneath the fence where the fence line is going to be on the north boundary. I guess my question is, why does that need to be mulch when it's natural vegetation right now?
He said that they need access.
Access.
Oh, just access to
It's
the
for the
fence.
access,
Okay, sorry, I
for the canal.
missed that. My bad.
They do access it right now though without mulch.
I would think having the mulch there would prevent dust from blowing up. Because you said it was bulldozers and trucks, I think I remember being stated in terms of what the canal company was using along that canal
Someone
route
stated that,
was
yeah.
trucks and bulldozers. So if it's mulch, you're gonna mitigate some of the dust impacts if it's just left raw ground
Sure.
and dirt.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry on that, with that, I think I'd ask for wildlife trees on that north side. Because we can control that, we can't control what trees they will keep on the canal.
You mean as in transplanted vegetation to it?
This, this vegetation here, I'd like to see on this property line, on the north property line, like you have on the west and the east. For on the north.
Referencing page 3 of addendum 2.
Yeah, so like this, where I would, because
Yeah,
like the
correct,
residents
yeah.
have said, we can't control what's on the canal. If they decide to take it down tomorrow,
No.
then it's gone. All right, sorry, cut in, go ahead.
I'm in agreement with you. What is the, I guess, I mean, obviously this is conditional use. I know that we've talked a little bit about this crushed road base versus, or the washed gravel versus asphalt. Where did we get on that?
I would like to see pavement. I'm more about the gravel and the longevity of the walk, as in a couple of years, what does that look like? Sorry. So I would like to see like the pavement paved, but I don't know how you can require that.
I would like asphalt.
Yes.
I've camped enough in campgrounds and seen what's happened when you just use a crushed rock gravel and
Oh, if it's not maintained, if it's
No.
not replaced.
you get divots.
That's what I'm
you
saying,
know,
and you're not
and
gonna
the
too hard to
dust.
replace that.
So, and I stand behind the impacts of a commercial use on a residential zone and minimizing the negative impacts. And I think asphalt minimizes those negative aspects that have been discussed along with the 8-foot retaining wall. I don't agree with reducing it down to 6 feet.
Yeah,
I
short
guess-
of everybody representing that lives down there. I mean, I guess I would. But I think everybody wants 8 foot, so I think we're all in agreement. on that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I would
landscaping.
say 6 if everybody was like, we want a 6, but.
Well, and to a point, I mean, having gone to Creekside RV across the.
Riverside?
Yep. Isn't it Creekside?
No, Riverside. RV park.
Riverside RV Park, yeah. So I believe I would even be, amenable to the design that they've done, because they've done a very nice job.
They have.
Which have, I believe, paved access, but the slips are also.
They have grass and rock and plants
Yeah.
and trees
Yeah,
in
right.
between each of the campsites.
Yeah, and so the places, the lots where they park is necessarily.
But this isn't, they're camping.
No, this is all just gonna be a solid surface. There's not gonna be individual slots.
No, but I'm sorry, but those are RVs. This is
Yeah.
RVs. This is, I mean, essentially not occupied, but I'm just trying to compare the two. I'm trying to say, if we say this needs to be all asphalt, what is the reasoning?
Well,
Versus just the access.
And I
points.
would, if you, in the comparison, let's assume that that is crushed rock over there, because I actually don't know for sure. They have, especially with like what they seem to be doing a really good job at attracting as far as who's staying there. I mean, they have a reason to maintain how it looks and appeals to people too, where
True.
this,
There's more motivation.
where this, there's
It's a
not.
product.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
in the middle of a wall and nobody's gonna see it. So it's like, well, why maintain it? And when you're talking 140 plus units that sit on that, like the ability to maintain it, I mean, it seems like it would be rather difficult to do. You're not, there's no way it's all gonna be emptied out on a every 2-year basis and, bring in fresh rock and fill in the low spots, and that's not gonna happen. So, that's where my reasoning came from, because I would agree that you
Fair
can
enough.
keep the crushed rock, and if you maintained it, yeah, that's great. I don't think you'd have a problem with it. You see people with their driveways, but they're out there raking, like the ones that want to keep them nice, like they're raking and bringing in rock when the low spots happen and maintaining it, but it's a lot of work.
And settlement with weather, settlement with snow,
Yeah,
settlement with
it's
all that
just- it's
stuff.
just work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that wanting to be put in. And maybe it'll be several years before the dust starts, but once it starts, you're not gonna stop it. And it might be 10, but at some point, that rock will be moved enough that you're gonna be driving under.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Wait till you get up to Mike.
sure, sorry. The maintenance would be generally limited to the aisleways, which are 35, 40 feet wide. So that's where your dust is gonna happen. It's not gonna, the parking stalls would need maintenance, but maybe once every 5, 10 years. So, yeah, I think this isn't the first time we've done something like this. We've always worked well with the city and the neighbors and keeping we keep our properties maintained. So that, keeping the dust down won't be an issue.
And if that can be said, I mean, you haven't been to all these meetings, but I always bring up these detention ponds, whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
You mean parks?
And like the ones that, they're all grassed and we get told, I mean, I'm sure that somebody sat up here and said they were gonna maintain them, and I guess my concern is that, so, I mean, if there's like a trust or it's written or somewhere that'll be maintained, then I don't know if it makes a difference either way. It's just a matter of following through with it. I mean, like down by the townhomes over here, that in the same neighborhood, I mean, that year that it was dry, I mean, that thing was just dead and looked terrible. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't been down there lately, so I can't speak to it right now, but so it's just like, I guess I'm comparing it to something like that, where it's like, yeah, we'll maintain it. We're going to take care of it and it's our responsibility. And then it just kind of gets pushed to the side. So, and then I guess my thought was, this one's out of sight. Nobody's going to see it. It would just be the after effect of dust. And like I said, it might be 10 years before there's an issue, but yeah, if it's maintained, I'm not as concerned about it.
I guess, and to your point, we have a neighbor, Dicker Parsons, who has a commitment as well to maintain the dust. But it's become a point of sore conflict, because what their determination of controlling it is widely different from what those who are breathing that air downstream is.
And brushing off their front porches and cars.
And granted,
every
that's
morning.
obviously way more extreme than what this would end up being.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's why it's a
Our
sensitive
impacts
subject.
are.
It's a sensitive, dust is a sensitive subject.
It sure, yeah.
We want to
And
control
Keep in
it.
mind, we're
don't
gonna
wanna add-
be,
as
we're keeping
best we
that a
can.
pretty good distance between us and the residences. as
Sure.
well. So between the buffers and the natural buffer and the fact that we don't have the density, right? We don't have the impact, we don't have the traffic, we have.
Yeah.
And I will
So-
say, given the way the wind blows in South Weaver, it's going to be more of the Nielsen community that I think will be.
Yeah,
But we have to
keeping
think
it
about them as
future
well.
homes.
Just
Yeah.
keeping it real,
Yeah.
but we don't.
But
want
also if you're moving during the
impacts.
day, I mean, it's likely less wind too. So I mean, there's a lot of things. It's
Not in the
just,
morning.
it's just I listen to these stories on the soccer complex, which was way before my time.
Yeah, you claim no
And
responsibility.
Listening to what apparently it was supposed to be compared to what it is today is widely different. So I guess I'm just taking that into consideration. It's like, oh, this all makes sense and I agree with you. And, you know, we're looking each other in the eye and agreeing that this is going to happen. And then in 10 years, this room's full with some council up here saying, before you guys, they also agreed to this. And so I guess that's where my mind was on just assuring that's like, clearly things can change. So I'm just, however we can minimize that change and maintain the relationship, as you said, would be the most ideal thing.
Was the question ever answered in terms of the times of the day that most of the, like what you would suspect, most of the inventory from this lot will be moved over to the sales lot? Do we have an idea?
I think it just follows the natural open and closing times of the main lot. So I think 9 or 10 a.m. You can check it on the website.
Okay, whatever
I don't sell
operating hours
RVs, so I
are,
don't
you don't
know.
have people coming in at earlier to move RVs around
Not
or
that- not that I
staying
know
late
of.
to,
That was the
Okay.
only concern is like, because we said business hours, but they're open later. I mean.
Like that's when it would be busier.
So that's my concern, like the end of day, when everybody else is now trying to come home and they're dealing with like potential RV traffic, like the opening, I thought, I wasn't sure, but I didn't think they opened that early. Nothing like that open. So all that morning work traffic will have been dispersed and gone.
School
But
traffic
There'll
will
be
be
the
gone.
evening when everybody's now trying to come home and are they gonna be fighting with RVs and stuff? That's where I was looking at the time where it's like, well, if most people are saying we're getting off at 5, like, can it be from 10 to 4 is like moving hours or something? That's where I was,
no later than,
that's where I was going for.
well, that is your chance to bring that up if you want it.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from the commission?
About this?
Mhm.
Well, I would just like, I don't have an answer for phase 2. I'd like that to be addressed to maintained. One, no exit, but also maintained
Mhm.
because it could be,
Until development.
yes. I don't know to what extent.
Okay. To not be a fire hazard or a
Right, yeah.
nuisance.
So that was just be code. I mean, that's
just code.
Yeah.
Just how vacant lots are maintained and required to be maintained. But again, that falls on South Weaver City as the owner of current,
To the code.
What's that?
isn't it? I'm still confused. Don't, okay, really don't.
It's fast.
Yeah, it's dirt right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Kevin?
Yeah.
Well, he so graciously has been up here answering our
Thank you
questions.
for coming up.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, one more.
Thanks for having us.
And I think I heard you flew in
I did.
specifically for this.
I did.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank you.
Just for you from
That's some
Asia.
extra effort.
Asia this time.
From Asia.
Thanks.
Hey, if you guys don't feel special. Oh, I'm sorry about the Chicago stuff. Okay.
There's somebody from the body of the audience that wants to.
No.
Unfortunately, we had the public comment period and it's kind of one of those with the commission's permission, I
He's
guess.
shaking his head.
It's with the
That's-
commission's permission. You can do it. Do you guys want to hear?
I will, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's up to you guys, but-
I'm okay.
I want to hear it.
Okay. At this point, yep. Commission all says yes. Please approach the podium.
Sarah Randall, South Weaver City. So just to clarify, the canal being piped, it does go down the center of that lot. And for a good portion of it, it is 5.5 feet of the grade. So earlier it was said that there would be no retaining wall. I don't know how you could fill that in to make it level to put RVs on there and not put a retaining wall on the adjacent houses for us and for Nilsson. And then try and park an RV that is already at my fence line and then also has an 8-foot wall right there. So I realized that it's been cleared because Nilsson got the Corps of Engineers to pass moving it so that they could build houses where the old one thing was. But I guess I would just like to note that they are seeking approval for phase 2 in this meeting. And at that point, they would be able to do whatever they wanted without any of the retaining wall or, I see that they've probably changed. I couldn't see because my eyes are bad, but on the map, if they've put in landscaping for us and the future Nilsson home, But that is not just the corner of our lot that's 5.5 feet. It's going to be that whole thing leading down to Harper Way where it drains into the pipe in the road in Harper Way that follows the parkway to down to where it goes back up and catches the canal again. So.
And for reference, she's referencing lot 19 is there, right in the corner.
And they do have, and I know you probably did not see it, they do have on the landscaping plan trees going along the east border of that phase 2 lot, and then along Harper Way, and then also down on the west border. Landscaping shows trees.
But I think that's future.
That's all
whenever.
future.
Yeah.
Yep, not going in phase 1.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any other questions? Discussion items? I kind of feel like we all know. It's just putting it into words.
So I've got some notes here of elements that would be edits or changes to the existing. 8-foot wall height, asphalt the lot, landscape vegetation, shrubs and trees along the north boundary, and ensure no exit on north corner.
And I would like to add, like a retention, if it truly is already 6 feet, 5.5 feet taller, there is some sort of retention around phase 2.
Absolutely.
If that's, and that, anything that's over 5 feet should be retained.
You're requiring a retaining wall?
Well,
Is that what you're
if
saying?
you're 5 feet higher than currently, then how does it, yeah.
How do you
prevent it?
maintain that
Well, you-
5-foot
you would
difference?
slope from the property line up to the elevation where they want to.
If there's enough room.
Well, look, if you look at where they're showing the stalls, they're not,
Well,
they're at least 15 feet away because that's where the landscaping has to go.
so you're gonna say retain it with the landscape, I mean, not retain it, but elevate it with the landscaping.
I think that's what they're proposing.
That's true.
Okay.
Landscape slope.
Because it looks like, and I'm on page 9 of addendum 2, where
Yeah.
it shows the individual stalls.
And that's what's right behind your screen too. This everybody can see.
Yep, right there. So that's the fence line.
Yeah.
It looks like there is a space between where the stalls are designated or delineated, except for what hits lot 21, 20, and 19, because those go right up to the fence line.
Well, yeah, it seems a little bit deceptive there that,
That's the hard part.
because this, I mean, it makes it look like this is all gonna be the same elevation all the way. But if that north corner is a different elevation, I mean, we've got lot 19 that could potentially have, runoff and sedimentation into their yard if that's being built up right now. And without that being like even temporarily vegetated, that could be an issue.
Mhm.
I saw a furrowed brow on your face. Am I talking,
Understand.
am I crazy talking here? I mean, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, we've established with the civil engineer that the grade of phase 1 is gonna be raised maybe a foot. Maybe
Possibly
18 inches, yeah, possibly 2 feet.
Possible.
Phase 2 appears like it's already seeing, a higher elevation of buildup because of the piping of the canal. And so where phase 1 and phase 2 meet, there seems to be some dissonance there.
You want me to speak to that? I think I can clarify that a little bit.
Please.
Please.
So it's not well shown on that plan, but it is shown on the other plans we've submitted to the city. There's a grading sheet. Maybe you can go back to the image you had up and I can maybe just speak in words what's going to happen. So there is a ridge line right now along where that canal pipe has been placed, and we have had to design our design to make grading work. But the low point right now is in the curb. There's an inlet box out there on Harper Way. And our plan is to have a catch basin somewhat located just on the west north corner of lot 20, what was it, lot 20, lot 19?
Lot 19.
Excuse me, lot 19 is the corner lot. So it'd be in the pavement area on that, on our side, on the northeast corner. So all that would drain in the future into this low point, which would go out into the city storm drain system. So that's how that would be addressed in the future.
Okay.
I'm looking at the grading plan, the updated one that Wes provided. The future contours show an elevation of 4412 roughly along that east property line. It transitions up at a 6-to-1 slope to where the parking stalls are. And it shows kind of a top elevation of between 4412 to 4414. So according to these grades,
That's not so
we're talking 2 to 3 feet.
Over 20 feet.
over 20 feet. Okay.
Yeah, and I think some confusion, right? The mounted dirt on the pipe now, I don't think that's compacted. I don't think that's a finished product. So that may be why people are thinking it's a 4 to 5 foot difference, but.
But with the cement box, and I know you didn't get a chance to see the photos that were submitted as part of public comment. I mean, it's not just a little box that, oh, we can just sink it down where it looks like it's at.
No, it's a pretty prominent feature right now.
Yeah.
And if
But-
that is indicative of the line where the road is going to be.
Yeah, is that gonna be the
that is
finished
significantly
first,
higher.
finished, is that the finished surface or is that like some sort of 100-year flood, catchment?
That was, I think that was just required for the pipe to full water that the other developer put it. We didn't have anything.
Yeah, no, the piping has, I mean,
Yeah.
it was part of the Riverwood subdivision development, so.
We're not doing
Just because based,
It's
I mean,
Understood,
It's been
but
done.
what is its purpose? How is it gonna be finished around it? Do you know?
Well, according to the grading plan that they submitted, I just gave you some of the elevations.
Right.
The slopes are 1.7,
No,
2.4.
well, I'm specifically talking about this concrete
Can you show?
box.
I'll show. 'em.
Sure, yeah.
Here.
Right.
moving.
Sometimes,
The computer. Don't drop it.
yes. Right.
So you've got a vault, an exposed vault that typically goes underground.
It just implies that like we're gonna put an 8-foot fence and he's gonna have a 3-foot fence.
Sure. So
So we need
I
a
mean,
20-foot fence.
maybe a possible, I mean, I can't suggest, this is, obviously the property owner would have to agree to this, but they're currently fencing not on their property line and on the other side of the canal, and maybe they wouldn't want to do this, but I mean, you could put the fence on the high point on the other side of the vegetation, so that you're getting the full 8 feet.
So you're recommending putting the fence line not on the south
I'm just
boundary?
proposing a thought here.
Yep.
Our
Yeah, and I-
conversation is going,
thought, right.
and if that helps, maybe then.
Well, and I thought about that same thing, but then then it needs to be opened up for, in my opinion, that's why I don't wanna, I don't know, I'm just not
Open up
probably
for who?
gonna, well, because now you're talking now a fence that's gonna be, 8 plus 5-ish feet, and so now how does that impact views from
Right,
their
I think that's
backyard?
the point that Wes was bringing up earlier.
Sure.
When you put it on the top and it's 8 feet,
Yeah.
then you now have it.
But you
a
put it,
lot
but
higher.
then you put it on below, and now you're mostly seeing the majority of an RV.
But that's where I think the point is that they want to have as much of the RVs fenced and blocked from view as possible. So you're not looking at the top anywhere from 8 to,
I think
2 feet.
No, you make a valid point. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Is that, it's not the views that we're worried about, it's the RVs that we're looking at.
How much of an RV do we want to have
Right.
exposed for
Yeah,
neighboring
naming the
residential
neighborhood,
views?
Because the RV is gonna block the view
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, it'll already block the view.
I mean, depending on where, I guess, well, I guess you see between them, but.
Go ahead.
Is it approved, is it approved with conditions, is it continue, or is it deny?
I'm opposed to make a recommendation for.
I can approve, I want to approve it.
But with
Somebody
conditions,
can make one.
Well, yeah, I was considering recommending approval with these conditions.
take a stab.
Um,
Or do you feel like more time is needed to noodle out what you want the additional conditions to be and you continue it to the next meeting?
I want to continue.
Well, I mean,
I just
You
don't,
continue to a specific point.
and I think I want to be more information on the elevation. I need to understand that more.
I want more information. I want whether or not that's in our lane with some of the concerns with
You have to
conversations
give-
that have happened in the
give
past.
the
Like I want to
information.
provide more time for somebody else to, have time to go back to the city council on their behalf.
Mhm.
And so I'll use my denial opportunity to give everybody else an opportunity. And I disagree with the conditional use as is anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'll make mine.
Go ahead.
The mics, please.
Yeah, sorry. I move to recommend denial to the city council, the conditional use approval for general RV inventory lot approximately 108 East South Weber Drive.
You're going with hard deny.
Yeah.
No conditions. No continue.
Disagree.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? And you don't have to second it if you don't want to.
I'm gonna second that
So
motion.
you're gonna second for denial? Okay, roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
no,
Yes.
No, so motion fails. Take two.
Now I would either continue or table it. If we don't have a date though, if we don't like, then I'll table it.
Do you feel like we could get sufficient information before next meeting?
I think so.
Roberts
Roberts
was
and
yes.
Scola.
Scola was yes. McFadden was no, and I was no.
I feel like continuing it is the right path on this.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to continue the conditional use approval for general RV inventory lot at approximately 108 East South Weaver Drive to the November Planning Commission meeting. With the reasoning that we would like additional information on the elevation changes and impacts to the residential areas, as well as the road base
Yes, yep.
versus asphalt and grading, planned grading. And
And
we haven't seen them. And that's why we want the additional information. Because that has not been something that we've been given the opportunity to look at.
They submitted my.
Yep, we haven't seen them, but that's why we're continuing it,
yeah,
is
our
for
eyes
that
don't-
information. That's not on you guys. You did submit it. We just haven't been provided that. And then,
yeah, more information, just phase two.
yeah, and more information on the intentions between phase two. And the maintenance of it. It's specifically with regards to the maintenance of
There
it
is there is no fence either until they're done with phase two. So it will be literally as is.
as is.
Right now.
Yep. Okay,
Can you repeat the
First
list
part?
of information that you want?
yes. So specific with regards to the grading and the elevation changes
So you want grading and elevation changes.
impacting the residential lots along Harbor Way, if you want me to be specific.
Along Harper Way. So you want the grading and elevation changes impacting residential lots along Harper Way.
With phase one and phase two.
We could set for November, can't be December.
We
Hold
could,
on,
we
hold
could
on.
specify.
We're
Hold,
still,
She's still getting the first part.
So you want that as item number one?
Item number one.
You're gonna
And then
Okay.
snow in
Item
December,
number
hard to
two.
get any more information on.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. The Harper Way, the access, no access, fencing. Because
So
that's
you want no access?
no access to the phase 2 storage area from Harper Way. I don't know if I'm putting this as the condition for the continuing, because this is more just a condition.
That's already.
Yeah, that's it. Right?
You didn't, what about the road base? About that?
Do you want
Just
that to be a reason for continuing?
Well, we just need more information on it.
More
yeah.
information on it?
What's going in now?
Maintenance.
Yeah, and maintenance.
Okay,
and
so with
planning, yeah.
regards to the road base versus asphalt, what is the plans for the road base maintenance year to year? I think that keeps it simple and open.
I would be more inclined to agree with this if it was December.
Again, could you speak into the mic? So
I'd be more inclined to agree if we were
Move to a
December instead of November for residents to have some more time in between.
You could amend the motion.
Yeah, you can
Or I'll
amend
amend
it saying
it. Okay.
to that meeting,
Okay.
and I'm fine with that.
I'd like to amend the motion to continue this till December.
And I'm fine with that change, with that amendment.
could I ask a point of clarification?
Yes.
Okay, in the information you received today, there is a documents that answer several of these questions that maybe we just need to walk through. I don't know, I would ask that, because there is an approval letters. Gardner Engineering has a storm drain management maintenance plan. It's in the information you have that talks about a lot of these issues.
And I'll say point of
Maintaining landscape
information.
areas and disposing of site and any grass clippings.
No, and point of information on this, this information was not made available to the planning commission until 2.5 hours before the meeting. So we have not had a chance to review what was in addendum number 2.
That's true, but you've heard.
And that's what we're asking for, is the time to continue.
You need,
Oh,
okay,
the amendment in front of us is to continue it to December. I'm fine with the amendment to December. I don't care if it's November or December.
Second, then, right?
Yeah, which, so we need a second for
I will second that.
my motion
With the amendment?
with the amendment that Commissioner Scola put forth. So we have the first and the second.
McFadden actually put it
Do you have everything that you want? Okay. You have a point of order you'd like to bring
I
up
guess I'm just concerned that we're gonna hold this up for
unnecessarily.
potentially 2 months, and who knows what happens in December if we have a quorum, that type of thing.
Mhm.
When these are conditions that could be addressed, that could be given before council. So even a condition, recommended condition of approval with all these items addressed, which would be the typical process for a conditional use permit.
Mhm.
Is the use okay, but these are the conditions we need to mitigate that use.
Do you feel like everything we are continuing on could be done with the
I
condition?
mean, I understand you have
No,
severe
well,
concerns.
Like, this was what I was prepared to do. Just make a motion to recommend approval upon these conditions. Great.
Okay. I can withdraw my motion for a continuation. I just need it to be seconded.
I'll second that withdrawal
Okay.
motion. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of this. Recommend approval to the city council, the conditional use approval for general RV inventory lot at approximately 108 East South Weaver Drive upon the following additional conditions of an 8-foot fence height, asphalt lot, landscape vegetation, shrubs and trees along the north boundary and ensure no exit on the north corner of the property. Corner. Or, yeah, the
Harbor Way.
furthest north
Harbor Way.
property boundary.
Okay,
along the-
so 8 foot thick wall. You want to identify like where, like?
Wherever there's specified,
Bordering residential.
yeah, bordering residential.
I would only like to add to that motion, once you've got everything.
That wall lot, correct?
Yep.
Landscape.
So
Is it in the
shrub,
landscape?
well, shrub and trees, add shrub and trees to the north boundary,
Bordering residential.
yeah, bordering residential lots.
And my only amendment to that, Michelle, are you good? Is that the Kingston Drive access be designated as emergency access only, and that emergency access be defined clearly. That's my
Designated,
emergency access only.
identified as emergency access only.
Yep, and define exactly what emergency means. So. Agreed?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 items.
4
Is that
conditions?
correct?
That's what I have.
I've got 6.
I have 5.
What's missing?
She had one that should have been 6.
8 foot wall, asphalt
Mhm.
lot, landscaping on north boundary adjacent to residential lots.
Mhm.
4, no access on Harper Way.
Mm-hmm.
5, designate emergency access only.
Kingston.
Define emergency access.
Were you missing Harper Way?
Yeah.
So those are the correct findings.
5.
And only one more addition, that the lot be designated inventory only, that no sales events will ever be held on the inventory lot. Because I think that was a concern.
In phase 2 is a concern. I don't know, is that just by code or how do we address that?
Put it as a condition that phase 2 needs to be discussed.
By a plan.
Provide a plan for what, a more detailed plan for what you want phase 2 to be,
Mhm.
given phase 1 approval. Okay, those are my amendments.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
So we should have
7.
7.
Okay,
Okay,
there's just, we need a second.
so we have my motion. Or motion, second, or amended motion. Do we have a second for all of those items? Do you want, and if you want Michelle to repeat them all to make sure we've got it, we can have her do that.
I'm pretty clear.
You're clear?
Yeah.
Roberts?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else.
Okay, go. Okay, I need a second.
He made it.
Yeah, I made it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll second it.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll second. And then roll call vote. Commissioner Roberts?
yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Almost. Moves her to planning commission or city council. Will that go through to them in November then? Okay.
No.
Oh, will it be the October? Because there's a second meeting,
Huh?
if they can.
I wanted
Okay.
to like take a break, but I thought we were close.
What's their agenda looking like right now? Light, heavy? Ask you tomorrow. Okay, fine. All right, that being done, first, I do want to say before we move into, reports, thank you for everyone that came. We did listen. We hope you felt heard. And obviously you will have an opportunity, when this does go to city council, if you feel that something was missed or overlooked or not addressed sufficiently, please, you have a public comment period that you can bring up during the city council meeting that they will listen as well. We do listen. So we all live here. We all want a happy community, believe it or not. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
New business. I'm not aware of any new business outside of if you want to go to the American Planning Association conference that gives you your CE continuing education. I believe the link was sent out
Yeah, it started today.
and ends tomorrow. So if you want to go, get registered. Or do we contact you?
Park and ride at 7 AM.
Yeah, there you go. So I have conflict and I won't be able to attend even though I really wanted to. So any other new business? No?
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Anything from staff? Nothing? Okay, then I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn this planning commission meeting.
Second.
I move to adjourn the planning commission meeting.
Get a second before the motion. Can we get a second?
Second.
Okay, so moved, meeting adjourned.
Yes.